The Prince William County School Board is now returning to open session from closed session. Closed session action items we do not have. We will move to adoption of the closed session consent agenda. A motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Wilk.
I move that the Prince William County Board approve the closed session consent agenda as recommended.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Ralston.
I second.
Any discussion? Please vote.
The vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion passed.
Moving on to the closed session certification, a motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Wilk.
I move that pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3712, that the closed session of the Prince William County School Board meeting of February 6, 2019 be certified by adopting the following resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the school board hereby certifies, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements were discussed in the closed meeting which this certification resolution applies, and 2, only such public business matters were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard and discussed or considered by the school board.
Mr.
Do I have a
Chairman.
second? Yep, Ms. Ralston.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Please vote.
The vote is 8 yes, unanimous,
This-
motion passed.
Thank you. This school year, we are kicking off the business of our meetings with a response to the community request to hear more about good things that our schools, students, and staff members are accomplishing. We are working with the schools and our communications team to spotlight a few of the good news items at these meetings and elsewhere with the term Positively PWCS. Tonight's presentation highlights the Potomac District and will be introduced by School Board Vice Chairman Justin Wilk.
Thank you, Dr. Lateef. Diana, sorry, I'm going to go a little off script a little bit. CTE, career tech, vocational, whatever the terminology that people use, has always been a passion of mine. I think a lot of people know I grew up in Michigan in the Midwest, a very blue-collar state. My father, for 37 years, was a welder repairman, took a job right out of high school at the time, worked 37 years at Ford Motor Company in Michigan. So although I did not follow the CTE route with school, I went the 4-year route to a post-secondary institution. This has always been a passion of mine because I understand and value that not every child is going to a 4-year university. There's many different pathways, and the earlier we identify those pathways and help students use their strengths, their skills, their abilities, and hone in on a successful pathway, we can truly realize their full potential. With that being said, one of the major passion projects of mine from coming on the board was an electrical apprenticeship program that I believe we're going to move forward with in the future in this county as just another avenue for students to have that certification and training in an area that's a high need. I'm honored this evening to introduce Doug Wright, an outstanding supervisor of CTE in Prince William County, a very hardworking individual. He's here with 2 members from 2 of the schools in the Potomac District, Chef Ron Evans from Potomac High School's culinary program, and Dan Longo from Forest Park High School's Project Lead the Way program. I've asked these gentlemen to share a little bit about the CTE programs offered at 2 of the high schools in the Potomac District. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you and good evening. Chairman Lateef, Vice Chairman Wilk, members of the school board, Dr. Waltz, thank you for this opportunity. This is CTE month in the Commonwealth of Virginia and being recognized nationally, so it's very appropriate to be here with you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be with you. We have a lot to celebrate. We're looking at 2 schools tonight, and I brought 2 excellent CTE educators with me, and we're going to start with Forest Park and Mr. Dan Longo. Mr. Longo.
Good evening. I've been teaching at Forest Park High School for 16 years. I started out as a physics teacher, and now I'm a proud member of the CT department, teaching IT and engineering classes. There are many student success stories at Forest Park. Today I'd like to highlight 3 of them. The first 2 I'd like to talk about, Matthew and Catherine Cinnamon, who started their high school careers at Forest Park in the IT program strand. Throughout their high school careers, they took computer networking and project lead the way engineering classes. Oh, thank you. And there they are. In addition to their classes, they were members of Forest Park Zero, VEX, and CPERT Robotics. They've also served as mentors to students at Ashland Elementary and Benton Middle School. Matthew Cinnamon won the National Eagle Scout Association STEM Award, a $50,000 scholarship awarded to one Eagle Scout in the country for his work on multiple robotics teams, computer science, and volunteer STEM research. He was also named a Coca-Cola Scholar, a $20,000 scholarship, for his impact he made with STEM throughout Forest Park High School and the community. Catherine Cinnamon has won the National Center for Women in Technology Award for Aspirations in Computing. She's a 3-time Virginia winner and national finalist for achievements in computing, leadership ability, and academic performance. She's a senior at Forest Park High School, enrolled in networking and engineering classes. She is currently helping me start a Women in Engineering program. The third student I'd like to highlight is Jack Dumoulin. Jack was enrolled in the Computer Science and Multimedia strand, where he earned Microsoft certifications for Access, Word, and PowerPoint. He passed Microsoft Office Specialist Excel 2016 certification exam while enrolled in Advanced Computer Information Systems. He used his passion for statistics and knowledge of Excel to become the state, national, and ultimately world champion in Microsoft Excel in 2017. He was the first American to do so, and throughout the process, he competed against over 1 million students, ages 13 to 22, from 124 different countries. Jack is currently attending University of Texas at Austin Business School, seeking a degree in business administration. Students at Forest Park have awesome opportunities through coursework and enrichment. These opportunities have given students the ability to excel and be successful in both college and career. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to showcase these great people, and thank you for your support. Slide this one.
Next up, we'll have Chef Ron Evans from Potomac Senior High School.
Hello and welcome, and thank you for inviting us here. I'd like to showcase the whole program of culinary arts. Here at we we recognize 10th, 11th, and 12th graders at culinary. Right here you see here we do culinary cupcake wars, which goes around this time frame around just to get the kids excited. But it's not cupcake wars, it's mixed with Shark Tank. So they have to make sure that they can prove that their cupcake can sell to anything. Also, right here last year we went to Disney World, took pictures with a known chef, and also we came in second place with our dish. Hopefully we'll be able to do that same thing this year, come in first as well. These kids work hard throughout the year with the Disney, not just with the Disney, but trying to go to Disney. They raise their own money. Every Friday we sell to the faculty, sell our meals to the faculty, and we raise our money so we won't have to put that much from the parents' burden on them. There's more pictures that you see right here. This telling you more about our culinary program. We have certifications as well, our ServSafe program, ServSafe Managers program, which they can also get a well-known job in the community. So with that certification, we offer in the culinary program, these students can go out, if they're not going to college, they can go into any other organization and they can get hired right on the spot. See another picture of all my seniors that we go here as well. Now, these seniors here that we take every year, around in May 3rd, we invite you guys all as well to come out. We have a community brunch where we invite all the community restaurant owners, CEOs, and managers to come out to see our seniors. They have this portfolio they have. They also have their resumes, and they just outstanding students. This year, we took it to the next level. We're bringing their parents in just to see their hard work at Hearn. This is one of the colleges that we visited. We do about 3 or 4 colleges a year. This is Stratford, a local college. Some students cannot afford to go out away, 4-year college, so this is a local college that we came out and visit. The chef there taught us how to make a food that we already know how to make. But because dealing with me in the military, we try to make everything that's around there. So this is one of the things that they had. And every winter break, we come in with the community and we bring in the adult care facility and we go ahead and treat them as well. We bring in about 2 to 3. This year was our biggest program. We came out with 45 adult care members. They were very thankful. We served them great meals, and we made sure that their blood pressure wasn't high as well.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the school board for all your support. I want to thank our superintendent, Dr. Waltz, and the leadership team for all your support. In a large school system like this, CTE is one of those components that we need to make sure all students and all parents know about, because it's one of those pieces that can help students find their passion, find their career. Once again, large school division, we have many great things out there. We're one piece of that helps students find their way, and it's because of your help and support, and it's because of great teachers like these. So thank you all very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for coming, especially Mr. Wright. You've done a wonderful job with our CTE program, continuing to expand it over the course of years. We have students who participate who don't go on to have careers in CTE, but they're able to sample different industries. And while Chef is here from Potomac High School, I'm a little biased, of course, because you teach my son, but I just wanted to thank you for expanding and revamping the culinary program. We now have a Culinary Honor Society thanks to you, your work you've done with local businesses to make sure our students, when they graduate, they're meeting the needs of the community businesses ahead of time. I think that's absolutely fantastic. My son is in, like I said, in CT and culinary. Many of his friends have participated in programs such as Project Lead the Way. His best friend is actually graduating with from the welding program at Potomac High School and has been accepted into an apprenticeship. So I just can't tell you how excited I am by the progress we've made in CTE and the wonderful opportunities that we have for our students and the tremendous work that CTE does in bringing our school system and our community together. So thank you.
Mr. Wilk?
I was going to close out, but Ms. Jessie, Mr.
I think that Mr. Wright does everything right. I just think you have brought a tremendous area of consideration to this county. I've told people that I have grown as a leader by being on this board because I was an elementary person and I was always a college-bound kind of thinking person. And I've begun to realize that after going to all the graduation ceremonies, and I watch those caps go up in the air, and I wonder what happens to the kids that are not going to college. And we just cannot afford for our kids to go out of the school system without either college or career, and you're doing that. And I'm hoping to work with you with the aviation program and to Potomac High School. Thank you. They invited me to one of their lunches. I've forgotten when it was, but it was great. And of course, Ms. Williams' son was there. And the welding program, I've been to that program. And please invite me, because I just think that this is something that as a school system, we really need to invest in career education. Thank you for all that you do.
Mr. Deutsch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Wright and for the teachers. Did they already slip out? Wow. But thank you for everything they do for our students. Been to a number of CTE programs and exhibits that y'all put on, and just the joy and the vibrancy in the eyes of students who will tell you that they didn't enjoy school until they found that sense of purpose there. And that's just incredible, because college isn't for everybody. And even for those who are going to college, knowing how to do things around our own homes and not having to pay other people to do it is a huge money saver down the road. And so these skills, whether there's something you get a certification in or it just broadens people's skill sets, are invaluable. And thank you, and we'll keep supporting you as you keep expanding, building onto these, because these are key for our community.
Mr. Wilk.
Yep, just to close it out, thank you again, Mr. Wright and Chef Evans and Mr. Longo, who left, which it's late already. So I want to thank them for coming out. And again, Mr. Wright, thank you for all you're done. Superintendent Waltz, thank you, Dr. Waltz, for continuing to push and promote CTE. So thank you all.
Thank you. I would like to call this meeting of the Prince William County School Board to order. There will be a moment of silence at the request of Lori Williams, Woodbridge District. Okay, thank you. Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. If there's a student near the front or up front, or any student would like to come up, they can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance at the microphone.
All right, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the public meeting agenda, a motion is in order. Ms. Williams,
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the public meeting agenda as recommended.
do you have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Jessie,
I second.
any discussion? Please vote.
The vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion passed.
Moving on to the adoption of the consent agenda, a motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Wilk,
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the public meeting consent agenda as recommended.
do you have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Williams,
I second.
any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Williams,
I just wanted to take a second and say how much I appreciate our lovely clerks in the back, since we will be celebrating School Board Clerk Appreciation Week. I know that I personally cannot make it without their help. There's a lot of activities that they ensure that we get to, and we know what we're doing when we get there. And your work is not unnoticed, and I am deeply grateful, so thank you very much. I also just said earlier, Mike, praise and congratulations for CTE. It is National CTE Month. Just throwing it out there, it'd be kind of nice if maybe we could eventually, over time, develop a CTE signing day that mimics our sports day. I know Dr. Welch, you're looking at me like, please don't say anything else, Ms. Williams. But it's something to think about. Thank you.
okay. Please, Ms. Jessie.
I also wanted to say thank you to the clerks, because you just keep us straight. And I know we call all the time and say, where am I supposed to be? Or did I miss a meeting? And you're always very nice and you're very gentle in your response. And you send nice notes saying, this is a gentle reminder. This is a gentle third reminder. And I really do appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Ralston.
again, you have so many accolades coming your way. But, you know, I don't know what we would do without you. It's a very busy job. I remember when I was running for school board, and I don't know, I just had this weird, I guess, thought that everything just runs smoothly. I was so surprised. And they fixed it. It doesn't matter what it is and what time of day or night, but I think that it is really good to have two people so nice as you guys.
Excellent. Okay, do we have a second on that? Dr. Waltz? Okay.
I would just like to weigh in also. Would like to thank Ms. Urban and Ms. Simpson for all that they do in working with the administration and working with the board together. So thank you for all your hard work. And just wanted to also give the first teaser of the CTE signing day, which will be this May on the 19th right here at the KLC. So details to come.
Look at that. That's
21st, May 21st, May 21st.
outstanding. We had a second, right? Please, any further discussion? Thank you, Ms. Urban, Ms. Simpson. We appreciate everything you do for us. You've made my sort of orientation to the board very nice. Thank you very much. I do recommend, though, emails going out that don't say gentle reminders. Sometimes on the second and third, we'd like it to be a little bit more firm.
Well, we do put it in all caps sometimes.
Which, by the way,
Excellent.
means screaming.
We might have Dr. Waltz tweet out the reminders because he's becoming so popular, especially with our battlefield students.
Vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion passed.
Outstanding, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to our student representative. During this time on the agenda, the student representative and alternates will speak and have an opportunity to introduce themselves and share their interests. Tonight, we'll start with Sasan Faraj from Patriot High School.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day so far. These past few weeks have marked enormous strides for students over the county, both in and out of school. But before I get into that, I will go over the key topics of discussion brought up by Forest Park High School's SCA during my visit to that school. First, the leaders first suggested that the school board focus more on school lunches, specifically addressing the equal distribution throughout the day and also a different variety of meals. Students currently hold that towards the end of the lunch block, lunch portions will run out. In an attempt to help negate this, reassessing the way that schools determine how much food will be available was brought up during that meeting. Clearly, making too much food is not ideal because that can lead to unnecessary excess of cost and food in general. However, not providing enough can lead to students going the day without a lunch. Now, because the number of schools that have raised this concern is increasing, students strongly urge that this be taken into higher consideration. And as said before, the students brought up increasing the variety within the menu. Going forward, students would like to be more involved in the decision-making process about the menus, more so than the current system has in place, whether that be through reaching out to the SCA or SALC within each school or being more transparent with how this menu is chosen. Students want more opportunity for engagement. The next topic of focus was the introduction of the new summative formative grading policy at FP in order to adhere to the rest of the county to match standard-based grading requirements. For those that don't know, obviously the crowd has a lot of teachers, but the summative formative grading policy splits the students' grade into two parts. Overarching projects, labs, essays, assessments are identified as summative grades, which weigh up to anywhere from 80 to 90% of the students' grade, and smaller projects, assessments, or homeworks are 10 to 20% of the students' grade. The largest aspect of this that students believe is an impediment was the shift in the policy. Students believe that more preparation could have been completed in order to better prepare the students on how to understand the different forms of grading and how they would be differentiated, as the shift in grading policy can be critical towards how students spend their time studying. That also goes into how many of the students believed that the grading policy focused more on testing than it did to the buildup of the test. Students understand that a test is an inherently bigger portion of the grade. However, the students believe that more emphasis should be put on the pathway to learning a given topic. The indirect impact thereof could be that students are better prepared for the tests at hand, given they focused more on the homework as well. Lastly, the students discussed that it is critical to ensure that students interact more with their counselors prior to their students' senior year. This is because building that foundation within the school can help instill more trust between the student body and the staff, which is highly important for an educational environment and can help topple the, quote, stigma against snitching, end quote. Now, in an effort to not only draw attention to what can be improved within the county, I'm also giving the students the floor to point towards aspects of their education that they appreciate. The word that these student leaders focused a lot on at Forest Park was opportunity. The students believed that their school in general provided ample amounts of opportunities for the students to engage with their studies more so, specifically pointing to the library and more. And the students said that both the presence of IT courses and dual enrollment classes offered students the pathway to excelling courses related to their field of interest. Now, since the student representatives have collectively visited all the high schools of Prince William County, I want to bring back the tradition that the previous student representative had of student spotlight. For this board meeting, I want to bring attention to the Martin Luther King Jr. oratorical competition, which was held on MLK Day. Both the writing and oratorical competition focused on the theme of small things in great ways. Although I'll not go over each of the finalists, I want to say that everyone did an amazing job. Being able to speak in front of a large group of people passionately and confidently will serve you guys well going forward. Keep up the hard work. The high school finalists were Michael Pettis from Freedom High School, Zori Jones from Patriot High School, who's also my debate partner, and Alex Kelly of Stonewall Jackson High School. Zori Jones earned the award for Best Before the Audience, and Alex Kelly earned recognition Best Before the Judges. Now, lastly, Woodbridge High School, Senior High School had their annual Leadership Summit. This Leadership Summit was open to the students in SALC classes throughout the county. For those that don't know, SALC classes are the courses that teach students about leadership. During the beginning of this day, the students listened to the keynote speaker, Mr. Andy Jacks of Ashland Elementary School, who's the principal, talk about aspects of leadership. After that, the students partook in breakout sessions during which topics of ways to promote school spirit throughout the county and ways to promote student engagement within their schools were discussed. This was a wonderful way for student leaders to engage within their community. I want to extend my thanks to the members of Woodbridge's SALC for inviting me. I enjoyed participating in the event. The next student representative meeting will be between the SCA presidents from across the county on February 13th. I'm looking forward to it, and I know they are too. As always, students can reach me at my Prince William County email. I'll spell it out, farajsa19@pwcs-edu.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasan. Next, we don't have our other students here tonight, right? No one else here. Okay. Moving on to citizen comments on the agenda and non-agenda items. It looks like we have 13 people, or 11 people who signed up in advance, 2 people who signed up at the door. Everyone that signed up altogether will have a chance to speak. If we are still within our I'll skip that. I will call the first 10 names. Please come to the front. Deborah Ramsom, Rebecca Schlater, Alexander Sapunsas, Mia Sapunsas, Reginald Pickett, Kate Olson Flynn, Aaron Merrill, Grace Linham, Riley O'Casey. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the clerk will keep the time. The lights on the monitor will indicate your time is up, and you should stop. Please use proper decorum and manners while at the podium. If you do not do so, you'll be asked to step aside. Please give your name and address for the record when you approach the podium. Our first speaker is Deborah Ramson.
Good evening, Chairman Lateef, members of the school board, and Dr. Walls. I am Dr. Deborah Ransom, Supervisor of Elementary School Counseling and Related Service. My address is on file. Rebecca Schlater and I want to personally thank you for your continued support of school counselors. We also want to thank the elementary school counselors who attended Legislative Day and have strongly advocated for the needs of the students in Prince William County schools. But now to the celebration. This week is National School Counseling Week. The national theme this year is School Counselors Providing Lessons for Life. So what lessons for life are those elementary counselors providing? First, I must say there's no typical day for elementary school counselors. Elementary counselors provide classroom lessons for grades K through 5, small groups on topics such as deployment, anger management, social skills, divorced families, academic improvement, at-risk behaviors, to name a few. They also provide individual services, crisis response, and intervention, as well as school-wide support for students in need in the form of backpack meal programs, holiday meals, toy drive, coats, and other basic needs to allow students the opportunity to focus on their learning. We all know that when Maslow's hierarchy of needs are met, Bloom's taxonomy can be truly addressed. Now, this isn't rocket science. If a kid is hungry, feels threatened, unsafe, not well, insecure, or lacks any basic skills, he or she might, but it's not very likely, going to scale the heights of Bloom's taxonomy. Unfortunately, 1 in 4 children have been exposed to a traumatic event that can affect learning. 1 in 5 children from birth to 18 years has a diagnosable mental illness. Of school-aged children who receive any behavioral mental health services, 70 to 80% of them receive them only at school. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that students' unmet mental health needs pose barriers to development, learning, and compromise school safety. But when highly trained professional school counselors deliver a comprehensive school counseling program, students receive measurable benefit. Not just my opinion, that's research data. We have been fortunate in the support of comprehensive school counseling programs in Prince William County schools. We thank you all for that and for the continued steps toward progress. With this progress, all students have a true chance to be provided the lessons for life. Thank you for attention and your support.
Rebecca Schlater. Rebecca Schlater.
Good evening, Chairman Lateef, members of the board, and Dr. Waltz. My name is Rebecca Schlater, and I'm the Supervisor of Secondary Counseling and Student Support Services in the Office of Student Services and a parent of 2 Prince William County students, and my address is on file with the clerk. I'm here to thank each of you for your continued support of school counselors in Prince William County schools. Your advocacy for our students in recognition of the valuable services school counselors can provide is to be applauded. And that advocacy has taken the forms of many of you even volunteering your time at events that we've had with school counselors. As you may know, the state of Virginia is currently discussing budget proposals that would increase state funding for a lower student-to-counselor ratio. The American School Counseling Association recommends a ratio of 1 counselor to 250 students in grades K through 12. I am proud that Dr. Waltz and the board have also taken steps to decrease the student-to-counselor ratio locally by including additional funding for school counselors in past budget cycles. I can clearly see that we are all trying to advocate for what is best for the students of Prince William County schools. In addition to lowering the student-to-counselor ratio, Dr. Ransman and I believe that it's equally important for school counselors to spend 80% of their time in direct service to students. Clarifying roles of school counselors is ongoing work for our office, and we'll continue to work with all stakeholders to ensure that school counselors can do what it is that they are highly trained to do. On any given day in a Prince William County middle or high school, you can see professional school counselors do any of the following: teach classroom lessons to students about a variety of personal, career, and social topics, conduct individual counseling sessions to help students overcome personal challenges, administer interest inventories to help students match their interests with career goals, monitor student attendance and grades and offer additional support to struggling students, conduct group counseling sessions to help students with like issues develop skills to overcome barriers, travel across the state on a school bus to show students different college opportunities, conduct emergency mental health assessments, and that's just a start. This work is important work and contributes to student success. Working collaboratively, we can continue to offer world-class school counseling programs designed to meet the needs of all students. We have several of our wonderful professional school counselors with us this evening. At this time, I ask that they stand so that we can offer them a round of applause. Again, thank you all for your dedication. And thank you, Chairman Lateef, members of the board, Dr. Waltz, for your continued and steadfast support of school counselors. We are forever indebted for your support. Thank you.
Alexander Sapuntos.
My name is Alexander Sapunzis. My address is on file with the clerk. I have 2 comments. Comment number 1, my son has dyslexia that my wife diagnosed in 2nd grade against the recommendation of PWCS. His independent psychological evaluation shows he has dyslexia, a reading disability. My son is now in 7th grade. He continues to be about 3 years behind both math and reading. He's getting more support in middle school, Vice Elementary, from a good reading teacher that specializes in dyslexia. However, it's not enough. PWCS is not dedicating or discussing additional resources needed to get him on grade level for math and reading from elementary through, it appears now, high school. We have fought PWCS for 6 years to get help. We have been through 2 rounds of mediation, have PWCS attorneys show up at individual education plan meetings we perceive as intimidation. PWCS should award services without hesitation and follow independent expert recommendations. I'm here to alert the public of the challenges you will face getting services from PWCS for your child. My advice to the public is to fight for your child's needs and be their advocate. Comment number 2. In January 2019, my wife sent an email to Mr. Keith Iman, Deputy Superintendent, to meet and discuss our experiences in a special education program. Based on our past good relationship with his predecessor, Ms. Ray Darlington, we felt we had valuable information. For example, we've alerted Ms. Darlington of dyslexic workshops in the area that were attended by other county district schools, but not by PWCS. I contacted Mr. Aman's office to set up a meeting. A few days later, I got an email saying that we needed to meet with individuals below him. If Mr. Iman had actually researched our file, he would have found we've met with all the individuals he referenced in the email in the past. We find Mr. Iman's unwillingness to meet unacceptable as a public servant and brings into question his willingness to collaborate and work with the public. PWC managers need to look to federal agencies for guidance on how to successfully interact with the public. I myself deal with nuclear issues such as licensing, inspection, oversight, and updating regulations. I've held numerous public meetings to obtain public comments to update nuclear security regulations. When the public calls me up and would like to meet in person, I meet with the public. I do not ignore their request or redirect them to junior staff. My agency takes great pride in operating in a manner that is open and transparent to the public. We work with the public and nuclear facilities to strengthen our regulations. We are respected around the world and considered the gold standard. PWC managers need to understand the importance of operating in a transparent environment and listening to public comments and actually acting on those comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mia Sapunzis?
Hi, I'm Mia Sapunzis, and my name and address are on file with the clerk. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm here to speak as a parent on 2 different issues. That was my husband that just spoke right before me. First thing is, I'm here to speak for all children in Prince William County that have disabilities, and they're fighting the same very difficult school system that my husband and I have fought, as he said, for the last 6 years. So I'm here to stand up for all the children in Prince William County that have disabilities, and also in particular children with dyslexia. I've been working with decoding dyslexia at the legislative level, passing 3 laws in Virginia now. Been doing that. I've been at the General Assembly in Richmond for 4 times now in the last 5 years. So we've had 3 laws passed. And actually, things that are happening in the county, you're going against what the senators and delegates are passing. They're actually passing laws to help children with dyslexia, and the things that are going on in your county are going against doing that. So I'm making sure that in helping children and that being a parent and supporting all the other parents, I make sure that I share all their stories with everyone that I contact at the House of Delegates and everyone else that I can share it with, making sure that all the stories are heard from all the parents. And asking them to continue to come forward and share this. This has been going on for a long time in Prince William, and I'm trying to encourage more parents to come forward and talk to you about it. So I'm here for the children. Again, that is the main reason I'm here. is for all of the children with disabilities and to be there to support them and their parents. Okay? The second reason I'm here, as my husband had discussed, my husband and I wrote a professional email to Mr. Keith Iman, who's sitting over here to my left, Assistant Superintendent of the school system. I think he's only 4 or 5 levels above a teacher, and really the level that you're at in a school system really has no significance. I think everyone that's a public servant is there to help children and to respond to the public. We indicated in the email when we asked to meet with Mr. Keith Iman that we had already spoken to Ray Darlington years ago for 2 hours. We had had a meeting with Ray Darlington for 2 hours about dyslexia. Ray Darlington was extremely helpful and professional and wonderful to our family. Mr. Iman has refused to meet with us now. This has been going on 2 or 3 weeks. So Mr. Iman is not responding properly to the public. He is a public servant. And I'm a former teacher, so we do not at all appreciate this treatment. I was a teacher in 3 schools in Virginia. I have a master's in teaching. I would never, ever treat a parent, a family, anyone in my life the way he has treated us and talked to us. Never. As a teacher, I would have never talked to a parent that way. The time is up. You haven't responded to our emails either, Mr. Lateef, so we'll be here every month until you do.
Thank you. Reginald Pickett. Dr. Kate Olson Flynn. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Pickett. Yeah, please.
Hey, how you guys doing? Last time I was here, I was talking about the Roots miniseries and how we needed to maybe put that in history class because other than learning never to repeat history, we are taught like the great things people do, and we should grasp what we're going to do with the knowledge once we learn these things. Black History Month is this month, and MLK's birthday was, just passed. And we talk about strong leaders and what they've done. Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth. And honestly, it just seems like a bunch of bragging ceremonies. And we need to start, I think we should ask ourselves, do you think we should stop celebrating and start educating? Because Carter Woodson, who discovered Black History Week, said the miseducation of the Negro was because of the inadequate knowledge of Black people, and we need to do something about that. So it should have a goal, and it just seems like a showcase. So because I could find a bunch of teachers and leaders talking about progress we've made, but nobody's talking about ending racism, and everybody we're learning about talked about ending it. Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Fannie Lou Mayer, Dick Gregory. There's a bunch of people. I could talk about a lot of people. But nobody ever said it's over. Nobody ever said, it's finished, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to learn about it in school, it's over. Nobody ever said that. Even Barack Obama, nobody ever said it's over. Things have changed, but it hasn't changed as much as they need to get to, because we've still seen the same behaviors. I'm still called Black, and there's 1,400 different dialects of Black people, but we're all grouped the same. That's still the behaviors. There's still, we have to ask, why are we even called a race? You watch Roots miniseries, you can ask these questions because you can see things like this develop in our history, in American history. So I think we should stop bragging about it and start educating about it and looking at what people said to do to this day. Just recognize, Alex Haley's miniseries, try to put it in your school systems, try to put it in your curriculum for teachers to look at, and just it gives the people of color how we feel, because we learn about Native American tribes, Roman emperors, learn about what happened in World War I and who died, but nobody can name 5 African languages. Or tribes, not countries, tribes. And I'm from one of them. My ancestors, we go back more than 400 years ago in this country. So just put it in there and see if you can, see if it'll work. And ask yourself the question, if you don't put it in there, why not? Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Kate Olson-Flynn.
Good evening, School Board, Chairman Lateef, and Dr. Waltz. I'm Dr. Kate Olson-Flynn, and you have my address on file. I'm here to talk to you about the importance of school equity at the beginning of this budget season. When looking at the CIP and how to allocate money, I implore you all to think about and ask yourselves this question. Do these plans provide disadvantaged students and students of diverse cultural and linguistic backgrounds with the same opportunities to achieve and thrive in school as middle and upper class students in our county? I'm here tonight to make clear what I mean about equity in the hope that you will pay attention to this idea when determining how to use and where to spend our taxpayer money. According to the Center for Public Education, equality in education is achieved when students are all treated the same and have access to similar resources. Equity is achieved when all students receive the resources they need so they can graduate prepared for success. By these definitions, Prince William County Schools isn't achieving equality or equity for all students at the high school level. The students at Woodbridge or Garfield aren't being given equitable opportunities to succeed because they aren't getting access to the same quality of facilities and resources as the students from any of the newer high schools. Furthermore, these issues are exacerbated when looking at the demographics of the students that attend the newer high schools compared with those who attend the older ones. There are by far many more disadvantaged students attending the older schools with less resources, worsening these issues of equity in the county. Those students should be provided more resources and better facilities. For example, at Woodbridge, how is it equitable to remove a specialty program from a school without the community's consent and not replace it with another for the students who attend that school? How is it equitable to maintain a school building that has no windows for natural light when the new schools were all built with an overabundance of windows based on research and touted from that research that students learn best with natural light? Or how is it equitable that there are desks and blackboards from 1974? These examples of both inequality and inequity need to be remedied in the CIP. The Infrastructure Task Force got it right to say that we need to revise the CIP to rebuild the older schools first. And I hope you decide to follow the task force recommendations and begin to rebuild educational fairness and opportunities for all in this county. And lastly, I want to state unequivocally that raising teacher salaries are always equitable and are always the best choice in providing students with better learning opportunities. When teachers are happy, feel appreciated and valued in the important work that they do, then all students benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin Merrill.
Both of the speakers are actually together for the next two.
We'll announce Erin Merrill and Grace Lynham.
Lynham.
Sorry.
All right. Good evening, members of the school board, Chairman Lateef and Dr. Waltz. My name is Erin Merrill, and I'm the civics teacher at Pennington Traditional School, and my address is on file with the clerk. For the past month at Pennington, I have also been serving as Speaker of the Mock House of Delegates and President of the Mock Senate during our Mock General Assembly simulation. The students have worked hard drafting and debating legislation. I even forced them to learn and work in parliamentary procedure. So when our principal sent out the reminder for school board appreciation, I tasked the job to our General Assembly. I've brought one of my student leaders to present their resolution that has passed both houses to our school board representative, Mr. Trenum.
Hello, I'm Grace Lynham. I am President pro tempore of the Mock Senate for Pennington. Resolution in appreciation of the service of school board member Gil Trenum, whereas Mr. Trenum volunteered to take on role of school board representative for Pennington Traditional School, which is not located in any magisterial district, and where he has committed time and effort serving on committees through the school system in his church, neighborhood, and civic organizations. Now therefore be it resolved by the Pennington School Mock General Assembly that the school board member Gil Trenum hereby be commended for his years of service towards Pennington Traditional School and the Prince William County Public Schools. And be it resolved further that the mock governor, Ms. McCullough, prepare a copy of the resolution for presentation to Mr. Trinham as an expression of Pennington Schools' appreciation for his contributions to public education.
Great, thank you. Riley O'Casey.
And he's wearing red today. Woohoo. Good evening, Dr. Lateef, board members, Dr. Waltz. My name is Riley O'Casey, and my address is on file. I'm currently president of the Prince William Education Association. Teachers do not go into the profession to become rich. They teach because they care about their students. They purchase materials that are not always provided by the school division. On average, teachers spend anywhere from $500 to $1,000 of their own money each year to ensure their students are successful. Our education support professionals, transportation employees, maintenance and custodial staff, teacher assistants, administrative assistants and secretaries, and technology specialists must live from check to check to survive in this area of Virginia. Approximately 35% of the employees in Prince William County Schools must work second jobs to make ends meet. Many work a third job as well. Virginia teachers make $9,200 less than the national average, and according to the 2018 WABE report, Alexandria City, Arlington County, Fairfax County, Falls Church City, Loudoun County, and Montgomery County pay their teachers more than Prince William County. And every year, we are losing the best and the brightest to those surrounding counties. If I could just take a moment and ask all of the superintendent staff who is wearing red to please stand up. And if I could respectfully ask that the audience who is wearing red to please stand up. Tonight, we take the first step to fix this. Thank you, Dr. Waltz, for making an employee compensation a priority in your proposed budget. We are here tonight to hear your presentation and to support the possibility of a step increase and cost of living adjustment for Prince William County School employees. We trust, through dialogue and collaboration, the members of this board will also support a step increase and a COLA for the employees. We are making headway in Richmond. The General Assembly has finally put public education first. However, this is just the beginning. Tonight, we take that first step in addressing employee compensation in Prince William County Schools. And I hope in 2 weeks you'll be wearing red, everyone on the board. Thank you.
I'll call the rest of the speakers up. Richard Jesse, Sonia Dorland, Aurora Hurtado. Mr. Jesse.
Good evening. My name is Richard Jesse. My address is on file. I just want to talk to you for a few minutes on the boundaries from last week. No worry, Mrs. Weston. I just want to talk about, we had some discussion, the board had some discussion about the fact that we weren't filling up all the schools. But I'd like to point out something. First of all, the schools are built for 30 to 40 years. And within 5 years, in the preliminary plan put out by the school system, 6 of the schools in Occoquan, I'm only talking about Occoquan now, we have 8 schools counting the new one. 6 of the 8 schools will be at 95% or higher in 5 years. So in 10 years, they will probably need the trailers back. If you look at 100% over 5 years, 2 of the schools will be at over 100% in the preliminary plans. In Mrs. Jesse's plan, at 95% or higher, there would have been 4 schools, And at 100%, there would have been 3. So it's a little higher. In the approved plan, there were 4 schools over 95% in 5 years, and 2 schools at over 100%. I understand that we want to not waste space, but at the same time, we have to think about the fact that in 5 to 10 years, if we build school and just look at making sure that we have it all fixed up, that we're still going to end up with trailers. Lake Ridge Elementary School has the lowest population right now with the new plan. And I would think that you might want to consider pre-K because, as I recall, we need spaces for pre-K education. So thank you very much.
Next will be Sonia Dorland.
I think this got taller. Either that or I got shorter. Okay, hi, I'm Sonia Dorland. I live in the Occoquan district, and my address is on file. I've been coming to the school board meetings here for the past 2 years to let you know about a much-needed update to Woodbridge Senior High School. I'm sorry. Although we have had numerous meetings and with many county leaders, and we are thankful for all the time you have given us. But yet we still are waiting for many things to get completed and updated. We still have old equipment such as chalkboards, desks, gyms, and also a cosmetology classroom that has not been updated since the 1970s. I have 3 students that graduated from Woodbridge Senior High School, and also have 1 more son that's graduating this year. But all these years, I have always thought that the people I help elect was taking care and making sure my kids were in buildings that they could feel pride in. Don't get me wrong, my children don't know what they didn't have until they started going to other schools and wondering why they have so much more. As most all other high schools have 3 gyms, we have 1. We have about 27 plus sports teams, and some get there as early as 5 a.m., and then after school, some practices go to 11 p.m. or midnight because of limited space for practice. Yet somehow, we are still able to pull off multiple championships, and for the first time in years, earned a school of excellence. I feel since my 2 years, I've realized the importance of coming to school board meetings. We will hopefully get our amazing Woodbridge Senior High School up to date and to compare to the rest of the high schools in the county. It is so sad that parents have to spend every Wednesday night here speaking for 2 years, and still we don't have things done. I know it's in the works, and then also over and over to just make things right at the school. I really think if you are serving on the school board, you should know way ahead of time when things need to be fixed. I'm not saying you have to visit every week, every month, but you should know what's going on in all of the areas, not just your own. And if another district lets you know about something that's happening, please listen to them. You are a team. You have to work together and make fair decisions for the districts across the board. I'm asking that you work better together and make each school better. Thank you. And give the teachers a raise.
Aurora Hurtado.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Lateef, Superintendent Walsh. Tonight I was really just determined to come here and speak about teacher salaries, especially after having my 2 kids with such irregular schedule with the snow. Please give them all the money. They deserve it. The staff, and the work that they do transcend. It really does. I see at home when my kids are trying to solve their own conflicts and how my oldest tries to apply what the counselors recommend for solving problems. This is a 6-year-old that's already applying. So the work that teachers and counselors and school administration does, it transcends beyond the school. And that's why equity is so important, not just at the school, but at the school, because we want them to have all the same or similar opportunities. One thing that stuck to me when we were going through the boundary process was when Mr. Jesse mentioned how Ms. Jesse found out about the projected improvements for some of the schools that you found from news, you found from the principals. And I would like to have a better understanding of how that can be possible, how our county supervisors can approve something and having you be the last ones to know. As a community, we need to have input, we need to be heard, and that we know that you listen to us, and that it's really, it's valuable and it's appreciated. And how can we support you so the county supervisors listen to you instead of making unanimous decisions that then we all have to live with? And one of the concerns for my community, my kids right now, they're super young, but eventually they will attend Woodbridge Senior High School. And you will see me here until that happens, because I want to make sure that they go to a great high school. And I want to make sure that we make that happen for our community instead of having to drive them around for half an hour each day. So thank you for your attention, and good evening.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 1601 school naming, Prince William Parkway Elementary School. Mr. Mallard. Mr. Beavers. Excellent.
Thank you, Chairman Lateef, members of the board, Dr. Waltz. Tonight, school board members will receive information reference the Prince William Parkway Elementary School naming recommendations. So Mr. Beavers, Supervisor of Planning and Financial Services, will make the presentation.
Good evening, Chairman Lateef, members of the school board, Dr. Waltz. Thank you, Mr. Mallard. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Dave Beavers. I'm with the Office of Facility Services. I have had the pleasure of facilitating the school naming process for the naming committee. Now that you've determined on January 16th who will be attending the Prince William Parkway Elementary School, it seems like a wonderful time to give that school a world-class name. Policy 854 calls for the creation of a naming committee, but also notes that the final approval of the school facility name rests with the entire school board. Regulation 854-1 tells us that the naming committee will be composed of the chairman of the school board, Dr. Lateef, the school board member in whose district the unnamed facility is located, in this case, Ms. Jessie of the Occoquan district, and any school board member whose district is overlapped by the attendance area for the unnamed facility. Here, the Prince William Parkway attendance area overlaps the Neabsco district, so Ms. Ralston of the Neabsco district is the representative on the naming committee. It's important to note that the committee is charged to consider these naming criteria: geographic elements, historical items, names of living or deceased persons who have made significant service contributions. Selection preference will be given to those individuals who have made significant contributions to the field of education, specifically within Prince William County. Now, the naming committee is charged with holding a community input session to solicit recommendations and suggestions from the public. That meeting was held on January 24th, 2019 at Garfield High School. In terms of a timeline, tonight is the presentation on the naming recommendations for information. And the February 20th school board meeting is when you are scheduled to take action on the naming of the Prince William Parkway School. Here for you are some visuals on the school facility's construction. We see the site as of December of this past year. Everything's moving forward and the school is slated to open this fall. The school is located at 4060 Prince William Parkway in Woodbridge, Virginia. Technically, this is within the Occoquan Magisterial District. Now, I have a list of names that we have received as suggestions, and I'll be happy to share those with you. So if you'll have patience, I'll read you all those names. First, Barack and Michelle Obama Elementary, Chin Elementary, Ashley Gwindon Elementary, Bethel Elementary, Chin Park Elementary, Colin Powell Elementary, Crossroads Elementary, Ellen Ocha Elementary, Glasscock Elementary, Greener Elementary, Hope Elementary, John Jenkins Elementary, Lily Jesse Elementary, Mary Jane Chin Elementary, Parkway Elementary, Richard Prophet Elementary, Sonia Sotomayor Elementary, and finally William Wallace Chin Elementary. That's the sum total of the suggestions we've received up to this point. We're still receiving those suggestions, and we have information on our website. If you'd like to submit a suggestion, we'll be happy to take that. So we will keep the board updated on suggestions that we receive so that you can make a timely decision at our next school board meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Beavers, Mr. Mallard, appreciate it. Moving on to 1701. And here we are going to, for what we've all been waiting for, the fiscal year 2020 proposed budget and CIP by Dr. Waltz. Let me make a few remarks here. Board members, as a quick reminder, while tonight is not the time to ask questions or make comments on the proposed FY 2020 budget, you will have opportunities to do so. Instead, you can provide your questions directly to John Wallingford, Associate Superintendent for Finance and Risk Management, who will coordinate the responses. Our public meeting on the proposed fiscal year 2020 budget will be this Monday, February 11th at 7 p.m., held here in the school board meeting room. Individuals wishing to address the school board should notify the board clerk by phone at 703-791-8709 or by email at pwcsclerk@pwcs.edu prior to noon on the day of the board meeting and will be placed on the list of speakers. Individuals may also sign up in the school board meeting room prior to 6:55 p.m. on the evening of the public meeting. And please remember that speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Dr. Waltz, you're up, my friend.
Thank you very much, Chairman Lateef. Members of the board, good evening. First, I want to thank our teachers, our administrators, support staff, parents, and community school board for all of your support and the great successes we have already achieved this year. And for the past 14 years, I have had the honor of serving as the school superintendent. I have visited nearly 50 of our schools since August, with the remaining ones to follow, and I've been very impressed with the work that I have seen in the classrooms in every school I have had the opportunity to visit. I have also enjoyed having a lot of interaction through a new Twitter account, and there has been lots of questions, lots of opinions raised, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm also thrilled that 100% of our schools are accredited and that our on-time graduation rate continues to rise to a high of 92.1%. That's nearly 10% over where we were a decade ago. Most importantly, this means that 600 additional students successfully graduated last year who would not have done so previously. This is the result of the incredible hard work of our staff who provide Prince William County School students from pre-K through high school with a world-class education. We recognize that we have many opportunities for further improvement and much to do in order to sustain the gains we have made. For example, last year we conducted an outside audit of special education, and we are making progress this year on the recommendations based on a prioritization developed with input from numerous stakeholders, including the Special Education Advisory Committee. We have also continued to provide local support for the regional school for special education, despite millions in state funding reductions. Tonight, I will outline my top budget priorities for next school year, focusing on ensuring continued and even greater student success. When considering our budget, it is important to recognize that Prince William County Public Schools receives the second lowest per pupil allocation of any school system in the Washington, D.C. area. PWCS receives nearly $4,000 less per student than Fairfax County Public Schools, and $2,600 less than Loudoun County, and nearly $8,000 less per pupil than Arlington County. If PWCS was funded comparable to Fairfax, it would equate to $360 million more in funding annually for students and teachers. Recognizing our fiscal limitations and our significant needs, my balanced budget proposal this evening focuses on 6 priorities. First, my top priority in this budget is support for our teachers and staff, who are the heart of our success. I am very pleased tonight to propose a step increase for all eligible employees, in addition to a cost of living increase. This will total an average of approximately 4.8% per employee in pay for teachers and support staff. This is the largest pay raise in a decade. This is in part due to state funding of a total of 5% salary increase divided over 2 years of state budgets. Additionally, while the health care costs have increased nationally this year by 6%, I am proud to announce that my budget proposal includes no increase in employee health care costs and no reduction in benefits. We also continue to implement job grade adjustments as a result of the School Board Commission market study conducted by external experts of the various jobs across our school division. As a result, 475 positions found to be below market are being adjusted to this budget and in this budget to better align with surrounding school divisions and employers. Additionally, this budget proposal includes a 2% increase in the stipends for all coaches, from robotics to football and other athletics, for piano accompanists and drama coaches, and all other performing arts stipends. I am including in this proposal an additional $100,000 in tuition reimbursement to support professional development of our staff. That fund runs dry every year, and through our calculations, we believe that this will serve all of the people who ask for tuition reimbursement. This is an option that is open to all classroom instructional personnel or classified employees seeking a teaching degree. Also, to support professional development, I am proposing funding for teachers and principal visits to high-performing schools to ensure that we are learning from each other. My second budget priority is special education, as we continue our focus of it being a priority this current school year, also into next year. My budget will fully fund the positions and support recommended as part of the comprehensive review of special education conducted last year. This will include 15 new positions with special education and additional funding for communications devices. Also, despite dramatic reductions in funding from the state, my budget for next year includes $3 million to maintain the regional school for special education at the same funding level. My third priority, and an identified priority by our principals as well as school board members, is mental health. We all know that the mental health of our students continues to be a key concern. To address this, I am proud to propose 46 new counseling positions at the elementary, middle, and high school level, as well as more psychologists and social workers to support mental health work in our schools. These positions will reduce ratios at every grade level. I am also proposing additional nursing positions so that every single school for the very first time will benefit from the care of a full-time on-site nurse. This investment in the well-being of our students totals nearly $5 million. The fourth priority within my budget proposal is career and technical education and high school programming. We must ensure we are preparing students for life beyond PWCS. This may include college or entry directly into the workforce or military. That is why I believe that it is critical that we fund career and technical education programs that provide the 21st century skills necessary to thrive in the digital economy while continuing to expand high school course offerings and hiring more teacher coaches. Tonight, I'm proposing more than $800,000 in additional support for our wonderful career and technical education programs. This will fully fund the first year of our new 5-year CTE outlined and embraced by the board just a few weeks ago. The fifth priority of this budget is class size. Recognizing the importance of engaged students and balanced teacher workload, I propose sustaining the investments we have made to date in reducing class sizes. This effort includes continuing our $1 million match with the county for smaller class sizes, and this is a $2 million continuing investment in class size reduction. I am also proposing to continue restoring economically disadvantaged funding lost during the Great Recession in order to provide greater equity across PWCS. This will provide an additional $3.3 million to schools who can use this help for special students that are in need, as well as class size and other critical personnel and program, with $2.5 million of economically disadvantaged funding going to elementary schools. A key component of smaller class size is having classrooms, and this budget includes an increase of $3.86 million in debt service to support our capital improvement program. This debt service increase includes supporting for the opening of the new Parkway School, soon to be officially named by our school board, and adds a total of 95 classrooms targeted to reduce overcrowding in the eastern end of Prince William County, as well as providing the opportunity to reduce trailers division-wide. The sixth and final major priority in my proposed budget is support for pre-kindergarten education. The research is clear. Students succeed when they start with a foundation of strong early education. I believe it is critical that we continue funding pre-K programs that provide students with that chance from day one and seek ways to expand availability for more students and their families. That is why my proposal tonight includes nearly $1.9 million in funding for the Virginia Preschool Initiative. PWCS has 44 preschool classes, and I am proposing doubling the number of Title I pre-K classrooms next year. Beyond these investments, I am also directing that we form an exploratory committee to examine options for increased public-private partnerships to deliver PWCS pre-K curriculum to more students. While I have highlighted the 6 key priorities that comprise the bulk of this budget, there are a few other areas of opportunity for improvement that my budget proposal addresses. This includes transportation, where we know that the ongoing bus driver shortage has impacted service delivery. In past budgets, we have managed to upgrade our fleet, and I am pleased that every school bus finally now has air conditioning. And by the way, as of this year, every school kitchen is now air conditioned. However, having a fleet of buses without drivers is not effective. So, tonight I am proposing the creation of a dedicated bus driver recruiter to improve and expedite our hiring processes. We have none to date. Additionally, I'm proposing 4 additional positions in transportation to improve the effective management of our routes and our schedules. In support of our students' need to be college and workforce ready, this budget adds $1.5 million in funding to update technology in the classrooms across our division. I am also proposing the addition of athletic trainers so that all of our middle schools and high schools will benefit from this critical role as we implement proper concussion protocols and other needs of our student athletes. In addition to support our student athletes, I am proposing the next turf fields be built at Battlefield High School and Forest Park High School, and gyms and auxiliary gymnasium be built at Woodbridge Senior High School and Garfield Senior High School. Lastly, to improve service delivery to our families, this budget will provide the funding necessary to implement the use of credit cards for payment of school-related expenses such as field trips, fees, and tickets to the planetarium, to name a few. As I stated at the beginning of my remark, the work of teachers, administrators, and staff to deliver a world-class education without world-class funding is remarkable. In fact, even with this positive budget, we still remain below the per-pupil spending of a decade ago when adjusted for inflation. However, it is my belief that in partnership with the school board, if we make the investments I am proposing this evening, we will make a significant positive impact on the ability for every child to succeed and to thrive, and for every teacher, administrator, and support staff to feel supported and appreciated. I thank you for your continued support and partnership as we work together to ensure every one of our more than 90,000 students in Prince William County has a world-class education. I am now pleased to introduce our new associate superintendent, our new sushi chef, our new associate superintendent for finance. You do have to kind of be a chef to get a budget like this. So our new associate superintendent for finance and risk management, Mr. John Wallingford, who will provide a few more highlights and additional detail on the numbers with a reduced PowerPoint presentation.
Standing. Mr. Trenum wanted cuts, so we cut the PowerPoint slides. So. Mr. Wallingford, sir.
So, Dr. Waltz, that's a very difficult show to follow. So, Dr. Lateef, members of the board, Dr. Waltz, before I get started, I'd like to say thanks to a couple of folks who've really helped in making my first run through on this easier. That's Kathleen Addison, who works in the budget office for me, and her staff, Connie McDuffie, Natasha Valencia, the folks in facilities, Mr. Winley, Mr. Beavers, Wayne Mallard, thank you, Wayne, and the Associate Superintendent of Finance and Support Services, Emeritus, Mr. Dave Klein. Thank you all very much. So, good evening. Tonight, again, a tough act to follow, Dr. Waltz. Tonight, I'm going to highlight some of the key areas of the superintendent's proposed budget proposal, as well as providing context for the current budget climate, and I'll be making some very brief comments on our CIP. I won't go through line by line like Mr. Klein has in the past, because there are just too many lines to go through. So what I will do is I'll give a high-level presentation and assign some numbers to the items that Dr. Waltz discussed. One or two housekeeping items. As you're aware, Virginia law requires that the superintendent develop a proposed budget which meets the needs of the school division. I think that's happened this year. And when that budget is proposed, it comes to you, and you review, revise, and approve that budget and submit it to the Board of County Supervisors for their approval. So, a couple of highlights. Here's some of the numbers. The proposed budget for fiscal year 2020, an overall operating budget of $1.13 billion. That's a B for billion. That's an increase of 4.4% over the fiscal year 2019 approved budget. And that budget is built on enrollment projections of just over 91,000 students. This budget funds each of the priorities that Dr. Waltz has mentioned to some extent, and it includes funding for the opening of the Prince William Parkway Elementary School, which will be named soon, and the Western Transportation Bus Center. So, enrollment trends. As I mentioned, this budget is built on a projected enrollment of just a little bit over 91,000 students. And as you can see on the slide on the left there, our enrollments are flattening compared to what they have been over the past 10 or 15 years. We're expecting a roughly 1% or a little bit less than 1% increase in student enrollment each year over the next 5 years. The slide to the right depicts enrollment growth in our student population over the past 5 years. And you can see that the total student population has grown by a little bit less than 7%. Special education, English language learners, and free and reduced lunch populations have grown by 16, 13, and 23% respectively. Those demographic growth patterns increase cost to the school division for educating students of Prince William County. Next slide, please. Thank you. Cost per pupil over time. You've seen this slide before. While we're fortunate that we've begun to climb out of the Great Recession, what you can see here, and Dr. Waltz mentioned this a bit ago, is that in 2020, even though our per pupil costs are increasing, or our per pupil spending is increasing substantially, we are still spending less than we did 11 to 13 years ago on an inflation-adjusted basis. This is a cost comparison, a per pupil cost comparison from the Fiscal 19 Washington Area Boards of Education report. You can see that Prince William County spends more money than one locality in Northern Virginia, and that's Manassas Park City. Prince William County spends less than all other Northern Virginia localities on a per pupil basis. And like Dr. Waltz mentioned, if we were funded the way Fairfax County is, we would be spending an additional $330 to $360 million a year on education in Prince William. Next slide, please. Very good. So now I'm going to talk to Dr. Waltz's budget priorities. I'm going to assign some numbers to some of those. And what I won't do is I won't go through, like I said, line by line. We're going to provide you with detail at the end of this presentation. So teacher and employee compensation, the first of Dr. Waltz's priorities, just under $25 million to provide a step of 2.8% and a COLA of 2%, which will provide almost 5%, 4.8%, should this budget pass in this form. 2% increase in supplemental pay, substitute, and temporary pay amounts. No health care, no VRS increases for our employees this year. Very good news for the employees. School board salary adjustments. There hasn't been an increase for the school board in 19 years. So that's in this budget as well. And finally, staff reclassifications of about 475 employees, again, just under $25 million. I would like to stop here and talk about our step and pay plan adjustment. I want to make really clear, because what's coming out of Richmond right now, people are hearing 5%, 5%. That 5% is spread across 2 years. For us, the equivalency for that 2-year period is actually 2.7% last year, or excuse me, in the current fiscal year, 2.7% in the current fiscal year, and another 4.8% in fiscal 20, which will equate to 7.5% increase over that 2-year period, 2.5% greater than the 5% you've been hearing coming out of Richmond. So we're way ahead of what they're proposing downstate right now. The next of Dr. Waltz's priorities, special education, $5.9 million. Funds to fully fund the special education audit recommendations. Funds to replace lost money to the state level because of the regional school revenue reductions coming out of Richmond. Special ed, additional money for special ed preschool classes, counselors, and finally, an associate superintendent who will focus their time on special education and student services. Mental health, additional money to the extent of $4.6 million for counselors, psychologists, nurses, and social workers. Career and technical education, $5.6 million. The first year of the new CTE expansion plan, money for robotics, technology labs, and instructional coaches. Class size, again, $3.2 million, restoration of economically disadvantaged funding that went away during the Great Recession in 2009, 10, and 11. Restoration of $1.8 million in VPI funding, federal funding that is lost because of discontinuation of that program at the federal level. School security enhancements to the extent of about $3.2 million. Funding for new students and schools, $10.9 million. And that includes changes in demographics and funding for the opening of the new Parkway Elementary School. An additional $1.5 million into our technology improvement plan. Athletics and other support, $7 million, including turf fields at Battlefield and Forest Park, additional athletic trainers. And then finally, other support for some central office departments, including human resources, facilities, finance, and others, to the extent of about $1.7 million. So in early January, we had a work session on the CIP. So I'm not going to focus a great deal of time on this slide. I just want to mention 2 or 3 things. Because of our lower enrollment growth rates, we're going to be sliding 2 middle schools and 1 high school off the end of the CIP. Those will take place in future years. We are, however, going to be adding a couple of elementary schools and elementary additions and middle school additions. Dr. Waltz also mentioned auxiliary gyms at Woodbridge and Garfield High Schools, and the Kelly Leadership Center is also back in the CIP this year. So, go back one. As a result of our CIP decisions, what you see here is the increases in debt service that we will experience over the next 5 years. The current fiscal year, 2019, you see $106 million in debt service, the mortgage that we have to pay on those new facilities, and you can see that increasing by roughly 5% per year over the next 5 years to $130 million in fiscal 2024. To summarize, this chart shows fiscal 2019 and fiscal 2020 sources by high-level categories. And what you can see, I'll just get straight to the bottom line. an increase in revenue fiscal 19 to fiscal 20 of $51.1 million, or a 4.3% increase in revenues from county, state, federal, and other sources. That increase is split across our debt service and operating funds. The debt service fund will require $111 million, and again, our operating fund budget will be $1.13 billion. The five-year plan. Here you see a balanced five-year plan. This five-year plan demonstrates your commitment and the administration of the division, their commitment to a real fiscal responsibility, planning 5 years out. What I'd like to point out here, however, is that just because this five-year plan is balanced, that doesn't mean that the school division doesn't have significant additional needs. Budget timeline. You can see these dates. I'm not going to walk through all of them, except I will mention one or two. The 20th of March, that's the date that we currently plan on having you approve the budget and the CIP. And then April 2nd and April 30th will be at the County Board of Supervisors making the presentation, and they will approve our budget on April 30th. Last slide. Fiscal 2019 end-of-year spending recommendations, just under $10 million for a variety of items, from technology improvements to CTE plan work to special ed audits. Some of the items Dr. Waltz mentioned, credit card implementation, a variety of things. So this is the conclusion of my presentation. I would like to provide one or two reminders here to the public. This presentation is being made to the school board for the first time. Question and answer is typically not conducted after the budget presentation or for agenda items on superintendent's time. The school board will have the opportunity to ask questions and discuss the budget in our upcoming work sessions. For school board members, to reiterate, please submit all questions to me by email. Staff will group questions every Friday and try to turn those questions around as rapidly as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wallingford. Excellent. Dr. Waltz, superintendent time.
Thank you very much. So I don't know how we can do much better than that, but here's some more good news. Last Friday, I had the opportunity to visit and surprise our school division's Teacher of the Year and Principal of the Year, Gail Drake, as known as Professor Drake. IT Curriculum and Dual Enrollment Coordinator at Battlefield High School is our Teacher of the Year. Hamish Brewer, Principal at Fred Lynn Middle School, is our Principal of the Year. Both will compete in the Washington Post regional competition. We will recognize all nominees as well as our national board certified teachers at a ceremony rescheduled for February 25th due to snow. Congratulations to our winners and all the nominees. Congratulations to Henderson Elementary School, which has been recognized by the Virginia Mathematics and Science Coalition. The Children's Engineering Program at Henderson Elementary has received a 2019 Programs That Work Award. Minnieville Elementary School has been selected as one of 3 finalists in the United States for the prestigious DeFore Award, which recognizes the top-performing professional learning community school-wide. It's worldwide, not just in the country, worldwide. The DeFore Award was created in 2015 in recognition of Dr. Richard DeFore, an architect and champion of PLC at work, a proven process of sustained school improvement designed to help educators share in the bold commitment to ensure all students learn at high levels. Minnieville's principal, Nathaniel Provencio, also published an article about professional learning communities in the winter 2019 edition of All Things PLC, a national magazine. The winning school will be announced during the Summit on PLC at Work, which will take place February 19th through 21st. I'm proud to share the success that PWCS is experiencing with our dinner program. This school year, we have 12 schools serving dinner, with more than 60,000 dinners served so far this school year. About 6 more schools are planning to become involved as well. Congratulations to Adam Russo, Director of School Food and Nutrition Services, and his staff for providing additional opportunities for our students to access nutritious meals at school. As you know, the partial government shutdown affected many of our families in PWCS. As published recently in the Washington Post, one of our students, Eric Bean McKay of Hilton High School, engaged Lidl, as that's a fairly new grocery store in the area, through social media. He convinced Lidl into donating a lifetime supply of peanut butter to him because that's the food he eats for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He loves peanut butter. He decided to pay it forward, donating a portion of this lifetime donation to furloughed workers. We are very proud of Bean for his generous spirit. I know many people who have expressed concerns over missed school time due to inclement weather. At this point, no worries. PWCS has built in more than 11 days and hours of additional time remaining before we fall below state minimums. So we do not have any days to make up at this time. In closing, I would like to note that February is School Board Appreciation Month. Our students and schools have sent their appreciation through the various displays of artwork, which you can see all around the room, cards and gifts you see here tonight in our boardroom. I send my sincere thanks and appreciation to each and every one of our school board members for the work that you do each and every day on behalf of our students, our staff, and our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Waltz, for that great report and good news. We'll move on to 1801, revision of policy 27301, political activities. And then Ms. Goss will roll right into revision of 647 and 715. Thank you, Ms. Rita Goss.
Good evening, Chairman Lateef, school board members, and Dr. Waltz. Tonight, we are proposing an update to the language of policy 273.01, which includes minor revisions to ensure that students are provided the opportunity to engage in the civic process in a meaningful way. The new policy will ensure that we provide staff and students clear direction on civic engagement and interaction with elected officials. These changes are in response to some guidance given to school divisions by the Virginia Civics Commission to promote increased student engagement with elected officials and promote citizenship development consistent with the new profile of a Virginia graduate.
Any questions? None. So we will move on to 1802, revision of policy 647, student publications. Ms. Goss.
Good evening again. Tonight we are proposing revisions to policy 647, which includes some language revisions to include the prohibition of materials that threaten, harass, or discriminate against students or staff in student publications. It also specifies the prohibition of vulgar and profane language or material, sexually explicit content, the promotion or use of alcohol, drugs, and other illegal activities. In other words, the principal or designee can prohibit materials that will disrupt the learning environment.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Deutsch.
Sorry, one question. Is smoking including on that and promoting that to other students?
So what it says is illegal activities. So if they're underage smokers, that would be something that's not legal in the state. That's correct.
Any other questions? Okay. You want to move on to the next one?
Okay, so good evening again. Tonight we are also proposing a new policy, policy 715, which includes language that will require a parent or guardian to disclose the student's disciplinary status at the time of registration. This new policy ensures compliance with the Virginia Code, and it also ensures that Regulation 715-5 a disclosure of a child's disciplinary and criminal history prior to registration has a corresponding policy. So we had that regulation, but we needed to have a corresponding policy to it.
Questions? Ms. Jessie?
Okay. Ms. Goss, I noticed that in this one, I think I'm correct in this, that you've added infliction of injury to another person in this particular policy.
Hang on, Mrs.
I noticed that you made there was a real effort to add that, and I just want to know the thinking behind that.
Are you talking about the policy or the regulation?
Regulation.
So we would have changed the regulation previously, yes. To add that, again, we always try to make sure that our regulation is aligning with our code of behavior.
That was added because of the code of behavior, to align with that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Does the code of behavior talk about that particular section if you're new to the division? Because I think the policy is for if you're enrolling your students.
It's all of that encompassing. I think the other piece around the registration piece is just trying to make sure that everyone understands what we're speaking to when we're talking about certain disciplinary issues that have occurred in previous school divisions prior to them coming here. So we're aware of all of those incidents that may cause us to involve OSMAP as a part of the registration process and ensure that we're making the correct placement for students and giving them the correct supports from the time of registration.
Okay. I'm thinking of like elementary and disciplinary issues in regards to our younger students. There's special sensitivity I feel for that. And
So generally speaking, as registration occurs, we always give that type of sensitivity to the age level of the student and exactly what the infraction was in the previous school division. So we do a lot of due diligence and looking into that at the time of registration.
Well, I noticed this year it included that question and for kindergarten registration, as I had to register my kindergarten, and I appreciate the new checklist. It's very easy to understand.
Excellent.
So I just, along with Ms. Jessie, just a little bit additional clarification. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Goss.
Sure.
Next, we'll go to 1804, proposed amendment to policy 115, compensation and reimbursement of school board members. First reading, Ms. Lily Jessie.
First of all, I want to apologize to the board because this was presented and it was my oversight. I would like to amend this to the red line items are attached. I'm requesting a revision so that, and that it be retroactive, that board members be allowed to receive compensation for their driving to and from board meetings and various other events. As you know, school board members do not have an office. Our home is our office, and we leave our office. You're allowed to get compensation. The board has provided me with office equipment and supplies, and all of us. And as a school board, Dr. Walt's staff, also they have cars because we travel a lot. I am one of those board members who does not work, and I tend to travel quite a bit. When I was a principal, I traveled quite a bit, and for various reasons, did not always ask for travel, and nor sick leave. And so I left the school system with hundreds of days of sick leave. But I'm asking that board members look at the fact that board members are not compensated a great deal, and I would just like to receive compensation for travel from my home to board meetings and to various events in the school system.
So we'll treat this like we did with all the summer 100 series. This is part of our 100 series, so this is the first reading. So over the next couple weeks, board members send in your revisions, concerns, share them with Division Counsel, Mary McGowan or me. And then at the next meeting, we'll vote on this. So it'll be the similar process that we did with all the 100 series. Okay? Dr. Waltz?
I would just like to make a comment, since I don't know that this was ever brought out before the board, but as you know, our counsel, Mary McGowan, and her fine assistant, Carol, and a number of other people worked with the board starting in the summer on the 100 series. The 100 series had not been revised for a very, very long time. It is the school board's series, the 100 series. So it came to my attention that somebody had thought that I had influenced and weighed in on the changes in the 100 series. And I just wanted to make a public statement that I had absolutely nothing to do with any recommended changes in the 100 series. One of the reasons we didn't revise it for so long was because it gets controversial. And as the board knows, and I'm sure most of the public probably understands, I serve at the pleasure of the school board. So whatever the school board decides to do, we will happily carry out. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to, okay, you guys, I think I'll go with Lily Williams, then, or Lori Williams. Terrible, sorry about that. Lori Williams, then Willie Deutsch, and then I'll go down there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I haven't quite yet merged into Miss Jessie, but maybe if I continue to sit next to her long enough. No, I just think this is a good idea. It falls in line with what's going on outside and in a professional and work environment. This policy, I think, is the adjustment to it. I also missed it coming in. It's no different than what I experienced in my other professional job environment, and have had access to similar policies throughout my professional career. So I think this is good, not just for this board, but for future boards, because we do a lot of traveling, and I don't think it's ever going to decrease. So I think this was a good catch. Thank you.
Mr. Deutsch?
I'll defer to Ms. Ralston.
Ms. Ralston?
Thank you. Now, what does the state say about traveling from home to where, but your work is wherever you go, right?
So
Like
let me,
schools, that's our
yeah,
work.
so let me remind everyone. So
Yes.
we have 2 weeks to go over this, just like we did with the 100 series earlier. I think all the questions, concerns, we can hash out over the next couple of weeks. Write the revisions into the
Okay.
statement, just like we did before. If you remember,
Okay.
we had the track changes
Mhm.
through there. Concerns should be, vetted over the next couple of weeks, and I think that's a good time to do it. And then at the next meeting, we can debate these issues and concerns,
Well,
if we can't sort them out over the next couple of weeks.
Because I've never asked for any reimbursements or anything else. So, because I could never figure out where I am, my house to the school to me is I'm going to work. I don't care what it's on, all of the schools to me is my job. So what do we do about that?
Okay. Thank you. Everyone knows to get your information, concerns. Oh, Mr. Deutsch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess this one's a little different because we already went through the 100 series. So we've already submitted our comments, our suggestions to Ms. McGowan, to the parliamentarian when he was involved. And so I guess what we're doing here is abnormal from what we did with the 100 series. We could bring back policies from the 100 series for the fun of it, but I think what we did back then was we worked through stuff. We spent a lot of time over months hashing through these things and working these out with the board. We came up with a policy that we could vote on unanimously. That's a good thing for the board. And so I think we should stick to what we did then. One of the important things here is driving to work is not something that we are compensated for. And driving to this board meeting is our job. That's us driving to work. And other local trips that are the equivalency are us driving to work. If we take large trips for school purposes beyond that, sure, we can be reimbursed. But if we were reimbursed for every time that I drive to my work site, that would be very abnormal, and that would be one heck of a reimbursement check. So I think what we're doing here is abnormal because we are bringing back up a policy that we've already worked through as a board, found consensus, voted on unanimously, and we're doing it to make sure that we as board members are paid more money. And I think that should be. I think we should stick with what we have.
Mr. Deutsch, you're entitled to certainly do that next time when we make this vote. But as with any policy and regulation, they can evolve or change and change over again, and I understand your concerns. Ms. Williams.
Just want to thank Mr. Deutsch for his comments and let him know that I'm currently allowed to reimburse every time I leave my office for work purposes to travel to an alternate location. So there are lots of companies that do this. It's up to the individual board member if they'd like to submit for reimbursement, which I think is the leeway there for our finances. I haven't submitted for travel reimbursement yet, but I think it should be allowed, not specific to this board, but this is specific to any future board. So, but I thank you for your comments. That was great.
Okay, we'll move on to 18.
No.
Oh,
I'm okay.
okay. Mr. Deutsch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One request. Would it be possible for staff to give us any comparisons to other school divisions on
So,
their
Mr. Deutsch,
we can have that.
so as I
make that
stated
decision?
earlier, all concerns, emails, concerns, get them. We have 2 weeks to work on this, just like with all the other 100 series.
Sure. I'm
So
just
let's
asking for that information.
Yeah,
provided to the board.
certainly. Let's move on to 18-0.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I would
Ms.
just
Jessie.
have one comment. Mr. Deutsch, I'm not asking the school system to give me a great deal of money. I make all of $1,000, about $500. I drive all over, sometimes my travel. Now, for those people who choose not to ask for reimbursement, which I did as a principal, that was my prerogative. But my home is my office. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to Ms. Satterwhite.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with the fact that we have already voted on this previously and recently, and I don't think it's really worth the board's time to be spending a lot of time on this either. We already voted on it. It should be done. But if the board does look into this, if the board does decide to change something, I think we might need to consider defining what official school board functions and activities are. Because that's not defined. And I'm not in favor of changing this at all. But if we're going to, then I think we're going to have to define what official school board functions and activities are, just to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Excellent point. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to 1805, report on the report to the school board by the Ombudsman Committee. Mr. Deutsch, Ms. McGowan.
Good evening,
McGowan.
Chairman Lateef, members of the school board, Dr. Waltz. Thank you for inviting me here this evening. I've been asked by our committee to report to the school board on the school board's directive that we address the issue of an office of an ombudsman. I'm going to see if I can find the little, here it is. So tonight, we're going to just talk very briefly about the review of our existing complaint procedures, the procedures that are already in place, both statutory ones and other ones, what research that the committee did into the Office of an Ombudsman, the models, et cetera. We're going to talk about the typical role of an ombudsman, the proposed model that the committee is recommending that the board consider, the recommended standards of practice for an educational ombudsman, the qualifications and the resources needed for an ombudsman. So it was in June of 2018 that the school board charged the committee as follows: to review our existing complaint procedures and to recommend a proposed model for the Office of Ombudsman. In addition, we were asked to develop and update procedures for the reporting, investigation, and resolution of complaints against school employees. So our committee met, not only Ms. Williams and Mr. Trenum, myself, Ms. Marchand, but also Tanisha Holland in our Office of Equity and Compliance, who coordinates many of the existing complaint procedures. So the first thing we did was review the existing complaint procedures, and I'm not going to go down into the weeds here with you on this chart, but you can see that we have a number of complaint procedures woven throughout the division in different departments. The ones that are highlighted in red are complaint procedures that are required by law, and largely the steps and procedures are dictated by law. So under human resources, we have the statutory grievance procedure. We have procedures for the investigation of discrimination complaints. We have as of recently, we have procedures that are required by law for the investigation and resolution of workplace abuse and harassment complaints. And you can see the others also when we suspend, or there is a licensure revocation, or a dismissal of an employee. All of those are driven by law. Similarly, under student matters, there are a number of procedures as outlined in red that are required by law. We are tied to the procedures that the law dictates for those. And then, of course, in special areas such as student discipline, special education, et cetera, there are legally driven complaint procedures. And finally, the school board itself is involved in various of these procedures, particularly hearing grievances involving employee dismissals and disciplinary appeals for students. So what's important to know about the fact that we have these existing complaint procedures is that in order to integrate an ombudsman into the system, we have to make sure that he or she operates parallel and in conjunction with these, particularly with these legally required procedures. So this is kind of a summary of the benchmarking and the work we did over the summer, the research that we conducted to try to explore what an Office of an Educational Ombudsman should look like and what would probably be a fitting model for this school division. There are two national associations of ombudsmen. One in particular, the United States Ombudsman Association, has developed specialty chapters and actually has education specialty chapters. And there are 6 or 7 divisions across the United States that have educational ombudsmen that have been working with this association. And we spoke to many of those individuals and came away with quite a bit of information. We also talked to some regional sources that have ombudsmen. Fairfax just recently implemented an ombuds program, and they were helpful as well. Can I get the next slide, please? This one's not, thank you. So when we did our research, what was pretty apparent right from the beginning is that there are 4 essential core values which are integral to the Office of the Ombudsman, no matter what model you use. And those are informality, confidentiality, impartiality, neutrality, and independence. And when we looked at any of these models, these 4 core values were embedded within that the organization of the office and the methods by which the ombudsman works. The standards of practice, which are dictated also by these national associations, are basically the organizational methods by which the ombudsman receives complaints, works to resolve them, and makes recommendations. And I need the next slide. All right, what we learned about that was also equally helpful was what an ombudsman does not do. And that's largely because of those core values. So he or she does not, in the best models, participate in formal investigations or formal resolution processes. And the division already has a formal investigatory arm and formal resolution processes. The ombudsman does not serve in any other organizational role within the division that would compromise his or her neutrality. The ombudsman does not have decision-making authority and does not have authority to mandate policies. The ombudsman should not be required to create or maintain records for the agency other than neutral data that they gather as part of their office, which can be helpful in reflecting problematic trends or making recommendations to the board for change. So typically, too, an ombudsman does not provide formal mediation unless he or she is a formal trained mediator. But in most of these models, they do not do so. But they do provide what we call an informal mediation role. They intervene and facilitate communication. Next slide, please. So these are the recommendations, best practices, if you will, for an organization like the division that is looking at the creation of an ombudsman program. The first, and this is where we are now, is determining the role of the ombudsman within the organization. The second is developing a charter, which really lays out how the ombudsman operates, who he or she reports to, what their duties are, what the procedures are for their office. We have already taken that step as well. The committee has a draft policy, which we're going to be working on in an upcoming meeting. This charter, in our case it would be a policy, would contain the standards of practice we talked about earlier, which would specify how the ombudsman operates within the organization. Next slide, please. So we have come up with a proposed model for recommendation to the board, which we would suggest be called the Office of the Ombudsman. The role of this ombudsman here in Prince William would be to provide an accessible, impartial, and confidential resource for the informal resolution of concerns and to facilitate access to existing resources and procedures. Another role of the ombudsman is to identify problematic trends, if you will, and report systemic issues of concern to the school board for resolution. The target group for the ombudsman would be complaints from parents, students, and members of the community. Generally, the ombudsman does not address individual complaints by or against employees because they're already redressable under existing complaint procedures. But they do entertain complaints that are addressed towards organizational or systemic concerns. Our model, we would recommend that it would report to the school board and the division superintendent, much like my office does. So the recommended standards of practice, which would be incorporated into the charter policy, if you will, include this list of bullets, and I'm not going to go down into them because I've covered a lot of these already, what the ombudsman does or does not do. One of the things I haven't mentioned before is that recommendations from other divisions with ombuds programs is that the ombudsman recommend changes to policies and regulations as they come up, report quarterly to the school board of the superintendent regarding the number and type of complaints he or she is handling and whether they've been resolved without divulging the individual confidentiality of any particular complaint. And then provide an annual report to the school board and the superintendent which identifies emerging trends and systemic concerns and recommendations for resolution. A kind of a caveat is because of those legally driven grievance procedures and other complaint procedures, it's important that the ombudsman recognize that he or she must refer individual complaints that are redressable under these legal procedures to those existing procedures. And also that they defer to the role of the internal auditor, the role of division counsel, or any formal investigator hired by the school board to investigate any particular incident or problem. So this is just kind of a rough flow chart that shows how this, kind of visualize how this would work. You would see on the left side are where the complaints are generated and how they move. So the bottom two blocks on the left are the existing complaint procedures for employees and students. The top would be the complaints that would be received and hopefully resolved by the ombudsman, largely from community members, parents, and students. And they would move through the Office of the Ombudsman, unless they involve some legally required process, and then they would have to be moved sideways over through those processes. So the one thing we also inquired into what would be the most important qualifications for an ombudsman, and we learned a lot from our benchmarking and our research. Probably the number one priority was demonstrated communication skills. Another was the strength, if you will, and the independence to address problems at the higher level of the organization. Third was problem solving and analytical ability. We heard from a number of people how important it was for the Ombudsman to have some background and experience working in K-12 education, to have a familiarity with existing complaint procedures for public school divisions, and other avenues for resolution of concerns. Very helpful, too, is experience in training in conflict resolution or mediation procedures, and some legal training. And by that we mean someone who is knowledgeable enough about school law to know when certain complaints, such as Title IX complaints or employee grievances, need to be moved automatically to those statutorily driven processes. Then the last slide, if we can get it, is resources. We also receive this information, beneficial from our benchmarking sources, about needed resources. One is that the office should be neutrally located so that the Ombudsman and the complaining people are comfortable in coming to confidential meetings and having communications. Another is that the Ombudsman cannot function without administrative support. They need that to expedite resolution and to handle multiple claims. I don't know that the existing budget addresses that, but that's something that the board might want to consider, the need for the Ombudsman to have at least one support staff. The Ombudsman would also need ongoing professional development, preferably through one of those national ombuds associations, website support, and also resources to put out materials to promote his or her office and make sure that the public is aware of that resource. And then finally, in reference to the second aspect of the Ombudsman, or the second function of his office, and that is reporting on systemic problems and gathering data that might be indicative that perhaps one department or one school has a common problem, is to have a confidential database in order to track and report this information to the board. So that is kind of where we are on this, and our next step is to have another meeting of the committee, at which point we will be working on a policy to bring forward to the board. And that policy will kind of really have the meat and potatoes in there for you all to debate. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them. Or Mr. Trenum or Ms. Williams might want to comment.
Well, we'll go to Mr. Trenum first, and then Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. McGowan, for giving the briefing on this. I appreciate the time Ms. Williams has taken meeting with us on trying to pull this together, and also the prodding from Mr. Deutsch, just to make sure that we don't let this sit too long. I think, well, first off, it was pointed out to me by one of our staff members that creating an office of an ombudsman was a recommendation in a 2007 state efficiency report. So it's been a long time coming, which I wasn't aware of until that person pointed that out to me. So it has been a long time coming. Also, just as an observation, is right now I would say the school division has, informally, we have 8 ad hoc ombudsmans right now that all sit up here on every other Wednesday night. So at least from my perspective, the Office of the Ombudsman will help. It does a number of things from a perspective as far as with community service. I think it'll help formalize and structure some of those issues that we all work on an ad hoc basis in our spare time and what have you. Ideally, it would alleviate, I know, the issues that our associate superintendents have to deal with. The school associate superintendents have to deal with when a lot of times we bring problems to them. It's like this needs to be coordinated and worked out, and that gets dumped on Mickey's lap or Bill's lap or Jarslin's lap or whatever, sometimes Keys to whatever. So hopefully that'll take some of that running down of problems off of some of our staff and let them focus more on guiding and training our principals and that kind of thing. So I think that's a good thing. The one, I think, issue that from my perspective, the one issue that we're still going to have to work out is on this this flow chart. Really is where when we talk about complaints by employees or the Office of Ombudsman, when we talk about community members, our staff are community members as well. And there's definitely going to be, we're going to have to account for that and make provisions for our staff to be able to leverage the Office of the Ombudsman as well to help resolve and vector issues. And some of that may be where they bring an issue and the Ombudsman helps them with the proper process to make sure they understand the process. Because a lot of times, even our staff, they just don't know the proper process. So helping that can be a function. And also those core values of confidentiality, especially that one, I think will help our staff work through some concerns or issues they may have, and without having to dive into formal processes and things like that, where I know a lot of people are reluctant to do simply because they're concerned about that. So I think that core value of confidentiality, I think, is very important to that. So those are my, right now, initial observations and comments on the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Trenum. Ms. Williams?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you very much to Ms. McGowan. You did impeccable research and work in helping the committee, basically being the backbone of this committee to get this done and present it to the rest of the board. I really appreciate the time that you took in reaching out to actual ombudsmans across the country, contacting the associations for ombudsmans, and really getting into the difference between, I think, what most people in the general public perceive as an ombudsman role versus how significantly different it is in an educational setting. And I think that's really important for everyone to understand. When this idea was first presented to me, I, like Mr. Trenum, was very excited about it, but I also had a different interpretation of what an ombudsman role was based upon my own personal academic training as a mediator and in conflict resolution, and I was quite surprised to find that there are significant differences in an educational setting versus a more, I guess, traditional perception of an ombudsman. I think it's very important that we do this right, and I can't send enough praise your way for the amount of research and really boots on the ground effort that you put forth to get this position correct. I think that what Mr. Trenum just said, and I also want to thank him for his time on this, is really important. I think that some of those things are already sort of built into this this format that we have going on. I really think the number one resource is so highly important, that the office really being located in a neutral place. I think without that, it really decreases the efficiency of the ombudsman to be able to do his or her job. And also the confidentiality database, because there's a lot of note-taking, or I guess you could say lack of note-taking that occurs in the Office of Ombudsman, but I think it is important that they have some sort of confidential way to record these issues in a manner that doesn't get them caught up in the legal system, so that we can recognize if there's a problem going on throughout the course of this office existence, because sometimes we have one-off problems, and it's much later years down the road that we realize there's several one-off problems at one location. And I think that will help us as a school system to kind of be on the forefront of that. Again, I just really look forward to continuing this process with yourself and Mr. Trenum, and to come up with some really effective policies to govern this office. And I really just cannot thank you enough, because it's a huge undertaking. As someone who participated in this seminar at the National School Board Association, 45 minutes was not enough there. You have spent weeks and months doing this, and I really appreciate the effort. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Jessie, and then Mr. Deutsch.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, you're not used to being out there, are you?
No, I'm just sitting up there.
Well,
hiding.
I know. Well, first of all, you're always thorough, and I can tell there's a great deal of work been done, and I really appreciate everything. Years ago, I remember asking for something like this. I didn't know what it was going to be. I think for me, it has been people asking you to solve problems that you cannot solve. And I don't know the situation of some of the parents that come in here, but when we don't get back to them, there's a reason that we don't get back to them, and they don't understand that. And so then we're blamed as being people who are not sensitive to community needs. And so I noticed that concern designated by individuals, parents, student, and community members. And I think that would solve a lot of problems for us because people really just want to be heard. They don't necessarily want us to always give them what they want, but they want to be heard. So I think this office is very important. I noticed that on slide 6, you said the primary duty is to facilitate the informal resolution of concerns of designated individuals, usually parents, student, community members. Are there personnel issues, not personnel issues, but concerns from teachers, and can that also go through this office, or does it not?
Well, I think Mr. Trenum made a good point, that the facilitator, that the ombudsman can use as can be a help to employees to understand what the existing procedures are, what the timelines are for those procedures.
Yeah.
Some employees don't want to go down the formal complaint route. They hope to resolve it informally. But we always have to be aware that if it can't be resolved informally, that the employee needs to be directed to the appropriate legal remedy that's provided by law for them. And a lot of these statutorily driven grievance procedures, a good example, other ones, they have timelines in them. So for example, a grievance has to be filed within 15 days.
Yeah.
So that's another reason that the ombudsman or the ombudsperson needs to be knowledgeable about what these other procedures are, so they can explain them, facilitate them, and move them in the right direction if they can't be resolved informally. But we did talk about the fact that the ombudsman could also serve a role for employees that don't have like an individualized complaint that fits within one of the existing procedures, but maybe a complaint about a systemic issue or an organizational issue that they feel isn't being resolved.
And I think that's very important because it's not just teachers, it's not just parents, it's not just students in the community, but employees and teachers who have concerns. And I think that an unbiased person, individual, or place where they can anchor those concerns I think that's a very important office. And so I thank you for all the work that you've done and the work of the committee. Thank you.
Mr. Deutsch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a couple of questions. First one on the neutral location. Can you elaborate on that? Are you possibly saying that maybe we don't want them in the Kelly Leadership Building, or what are we talking about there?
Well, having talked to several ombudsmen, they stressed that they were not certainly they were not near the leadership team. They were in a location, whatever building they had, where they felt like people could come and go with confidentiality. Also, they had their own support person. They didn't share with other members, with the administration, anybody else in the division, that person was also part of that confidentiality neutrality office. So here, it would be up to the board to decide, with the superintendent's input, obviously, what would serve in this location to ensure that kind of neutrality.
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely a feeling that this building has eyes and ears, and people walk in, people know about it. Is there also, how do we, on the flip side, make sure that the ombudsman can work well with other people in the school division, whether it's helping to get data, work through things? There's going to be things that there has to be an ability to collaborate and work together. And how do we work that into some of the flow charts and stuff that we had earlier?
One of the observations that was made that I learned from the Fairfax ombudsman, when I was talking to him about his background, he had been a principal in the school division some years before, and he was a well-respected principal. He was head of one of the principal associations, et cetera. He said because of his existing relationships and the respect that the other principals had for him and his knowledge of the division, that really helped him work with the principals and other department heads to try to resolve things because they knew him and he knew them. But then the flip side of that could be that you want someone from outside the division where there appears to be, no prior knowledge. So there are two different ways to look at it. And I think you're going to have to look at your respective candidates and try to make that evaluation.
Awesome. And then walking through the hiring process here. So we funded the position in the last budget. We're coming up on our new budget. I guess the first step before we hire is setting the policies and regulations. Is that correct?
The first thing you do is you'll have a policy because it'll be in the 100 series.
And so what's
and
our
the policy
timeline
will lay
for-
out the operations of the office.
Sure.
You'll decide how that reporting structure is going to work, and it should be reflected in that policy. You'll have to staff. You should be prepared to staff the office. One thing everybody to a man said was make sure that this person, if they're already not certified by one of the national ombuds associations, that they go to their training, that they have a pretty extensive training, I think maybe even in the summer. So you could conceivably get things in line for someone to start at the beginning of the school year if you move the process forward that way.
Awesome. That's very helpful on the timeline. What are we looking at in terms of who does the hiring? So is there, hopefully the board's going to be heavily involved. Is there any ability for community members or other community input on that as well? Just so we make sure that the person that has both has trust with the community and trust inside the school division to be able to work with both important groups.
I don't know. That would be for the board to decide how to staff the review process. I think you certainly have to follow the school board's established procedures for advertising, posting the position, reviewing the materials to select the most qualified candidates, then setting up an interview panel.
Sure.
The composition of that panel is going to be up to the board and the superintendent.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Ms. Williams.
I just want to throw a little bit more detail into what Ms. McGowan was saying about having an inside versus outside person. We did discuss as a committee maybe splitting that in various ways. As Ms. McGowan was saying, maybe the ombudsman was someone coming from the school system and with previous experience, having an outside staff person, or vice versa. I like the idea of having some sort of combination, just because we are a school division that is so large. I'm not always a fan of hiring within, just because I like to have fresh ideas and a fresh perspective. But I think for this office, it would be very helpful to have some sort of combination of the two. And in regards to the hiring process, personally, I think that the way that we go about hiring outside staff, principals, when we have a panel and committees, I think is a good idea, but I don't necessarily know that they would be involved in the actual hiring of the person, but providing recommendations or additional observations, I think is a good idea. I was a participant on that for a principal selection process. Was not a member of the school staff, clearly, but I think it was good to be able to provide that sort of feedback as an outside community member, but again, I was not involved in the actual hiring decision. So I think that that's something worth considering.
Mr. Trenum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would, with regard to the hiring process and that, I would refer back to what we've done before with when we first brought on division counsel, or when we brought on the auditor. Is the way we did those is we actually had a panel of school board members, and they did the interviews. Obviously, we got all the resumes and everything, and then the panel reviewed the resumes. I think it was a panel of 3 board members, decided which ones they wanted to do interviews, and then the panel conducted the interviews, and then the panel brought back a recommendation to the entire board, and the board acted on that. So I think it's very important that we follow something along those lines, do that to make sure that to follow with the flow chart and the org chart as far as who the ombudsman, how they're reporting and following that reporting chain. So I think because part of this is, I didn't hear you say it unless I just missed it, but as far as with the reporting chain, like the division counsel, the ombudsman's annual evaluation will be done by the school board as well. So that's one more thing for the chairman to have to round up and hassle the other board members about. But
Firm emails from Debbie Urban and
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just.
Firm.
if I could-
Yes, Ms.
if I could
McGowan,
just add some-
absolutely.
It might be a good idea to put on the agenda for our next committee meeting, development of a job description and figuring out the hiring process before we come back to the board with the policy.
Any other questions? Mr. Deutsch?
Thank you. When do you think y'all might be able to come back to the board with that update?
Well, probably not the 20th, but one of the March meetings. Hopefully, we'll shoot for the first one.
Awesome, very cool. And then following up on the previous line of discussion, I think when we hire principals, we have community input panel. We have panels of people from that school community that ask questions, offer some feedback. Is there any way to incorporate that possibly with the school board members who actually do the hiring? Just
I think that's something for the committee to decide, yes.
Sure. Let me go to Ms. Ralston, then Ms. Williams, and then that'll wrap it up.
Thank you. When you were out to see how you wanted to run this, or at least get the people, I'm kind of concerned that the ombudsman knowing the board, feeling that because these three people help them get their job. Have you had an opportunity to take a look at what that would look like? Where I was, nobody on the school board had any relationship with the ombudsman, no matter what.
Well, there are different models.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. So what?
Frankly, in some school divisions that have an ombudsman, they report directly to the superintendent.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Others report to the board, others report jointly, which is the kind of model I suggested here, the committee suggested here. But there are different models. We looked at all of the different ones, thought this one was probably the most copacetic for here.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
In relation to Mr. Deutsch's comment, I think that the first board meeting is a big stretch considering we are doing our budget season and we have a lot of meetings this month. It's also the shortest month of the year. So my expectation would probably be a little bit later in March because there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of conversations as well as schedules that have to be met in order for this to work for everyone. And as noted over the summer, it took us a long time to get to this point. So I'd hate to rush this just so that we can have something for you at the beginning of March and it not be thought out or had each individual committee member had the time to consider or look up other things. So while I understand this is important, it is extremely important to me that it not be rushed and that everyone has a fair opportunity to express their opinions and thoughts on this matter. So thank you.
Next, we'll go to 1806, school board poll. Thank you, Ms. McGowan. Appreciate it, Counselor. School board poll regarding advertisements on school buses, 1806. Who's doing that? Is that Mary?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the board poll as voted on.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Williams?
I second.
Any discussion? Mr. Trenum?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification, I want to talk to Ms. McGowan about this. So the way we're voting on this instance here is the way we voted on the poll, correct?
Yes. You're voting on the motion that was the subject of the poll.
Yep.
Just as if, exactly.
So let me read it just for the public's sake, that the Prince William County School Board support all bills that permit local school boards to display commercial advertising material on the sides of school buses between the rear wheels and the rear of the bus, provided that no such material obstructs the name of the school divisions or the numbers of the school bus and meets defined criteria for appropriate advertising. This is to support the legislative agenda or to promote, support any bills down in Richmond that would allow us to do this. And so we took a poll amongst board members, and we are now certifying the poll. Mr. Trenum.
Thank you. One more point, just a point of interest or point of clarification that people not be aware. We also need this so that we can put our own advertisements on the school board, so I understand. Because I know I've been harassing our staff about putting advertisements for bus drivers on our buses, and I've been told, well, we can't put it on the buses because it's not legal. So this helps us, too, for our own stuff.
Excellent point. Okay. Ms. McGowan, do we need to do anything further on this? Do we vote now? Are we voting on this as well?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. You can, yeah. Okay. While we're waiting for this, we'll...
Vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion
Excellent,
passed.
thank you. We'll go to board matters. We'll start on this side with Willie Deutsch today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This board meeting is moving, and I appreciate that. The budget presentation was definitely very exciting, very positive. The pay increase, being able to carry through on that after the discussions last year is very important, and making sure that our teachers are compensated. Also, following through on our special education audit, I think that has been one of the biggest accomplishments of the school board, and making sure that we continue to carry out the goals and the priorities that we established there is critical, as well as a number of other things we see there. And so I think that's very exciting. And want to make sure, though, that as we make sure that we upgrade our older schools, and that's something that's critical. We've worked with the Infrastructure Task Force Committee. One of the schools that we've got to make sure does not fall through the cracks is Osborne Park High School. It's one of our oldest high schools. We need to make sure that we are lifting up all of our older high schools together, and so look forward to making sure that we do that in this budget process as well.
Jesse?
I agree, we really do need to think about Osborne Park. You know, it's a wonderful school, but it does need some renovations. Wanted to just a couple of things during the week. Lake Ridge Elementary had a pizza dinner for furloughed parents. There were not a lot of persons in attendance, but I just want to congratulate them for thinking about that. Woodbridge High School hosted a drumline clinic and guard competition on Saturday. Many schools in the region, to include universities, participated. I want to thank them for taking on such an enormous task. You know, the longer I've been on this board, the more I appreciate high school principals. I don't know how they keep up with the work. It's just a lot of things going on. Woodbridge came in second for the guard competition. Of course, Ms. Ross, and I'm sure she'll mention this, the Dale City Civitan Award ceremony. I went to that. It was well done again. And I want to congratulate all the winners, especially Minnieville and Freedom High School. I attended the VSBA Legislative Conference and met several delegates. It was interesting meeting so many delegates from our areas. I'm on the Challenging School Committee and participated in a seminar this week and a webinar on, you know, Virginia has its own Challenging School Committee, and this whole issue of equity, which was discussed earlier, is something that I think it was Jocelyn and Mrs. Goss and I went to Roanoke, where they have that plan down there. And so I was talking to Mr. Iman. I think whatever we do in Prince William should align with what's already in place, and I think we can tag into that. So I'd like to chat with you a little bit later about that. On the MLK, of course, is 30th anniversary coming up. And I really would like for this school system to support these kids. There are many of these kids who are doctors, lawyers, doing wonderful things. And so 30 years out, I would like to see all of us support and that program. And I want to congratulate Dr. Lateef. You did a good job up there with all those kids. I mean, there were some speakers, I'm telling you, they were great. And on the boundary meetings, I want to thank Mr. Matthew Cartledge and his office for what they've done to support us. I know that we came back with so many different recommendations, but it was just, I've been through boundary situations, but 16 schools and that many kids moving around was very, very difficult. And I just want to thank him for accommodating the various ideas. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first want to say thank you to Mr. Wright for updating our the superintendent down there about the signing day for CTE. I am so excited about that. We, as a society, pay a lot of attention to our athletes, especially prominent sports, and it's always nice to give the same amount of attention to other areas that are equally important. I also want to give a shout out again to our Freedom High School student, and forgive me, I had her name written down and I can't find my piece of paper. I'm sure I'll be reminded later. But she earned a full ride scholarship to Ohio State for bowling. And we spend a lot of time on football and basketball and sports like that, and they're exciting, no doubt. But that to me is just incredible. I cannot bowl to save my life, and to think that she earned this all on her own, full ride, room and board, and tuition, plus being on the bowling team. And Ms. Jessie just also let me know that we also have a bowler going to Harvard on a full ride. So these are exciting events. I'd love to see us, as if we have the space, to promote these students a little bit more. We spend a lot of time on some of our team sports, but I think some of our individual sports also deserve this attention. I also want to congratulate our swimmers, because I know they had their regional swim meet in Stafford. It's the first regional swim competition I was able to attend. A little biased because I did get to see my godson, who placed 4th in one of his relays, so that was very exciting. Moving on from that, I just want to congratulate Hamish Brewer on winning Principal of the Year. I was able to see it live on Facebook, which was really cool. It's always exciting to be able to have a principal win that honor, but for me, it's just so exciting to see the students react. They, I think, stole the show in the announcement, and it was something amazing to see. I also want to take a moment to say that I also was in Richmond for VSBA. It was a small delegation that went this year. It was just myself, Ms. Jessie, and Ms. Satterwhite. Since I've been on the board, that was the smallest attendance by board members that I've seen yet, but we were very effective with our women power down there, and we were able to meet with just about every delegate, which is kind of an unusual thing for us, considering how busy they are in the short session for the General Assembly. So it was very productive, and I'd like to thank the support staff to help us get there and make sure that we were able to get where we needed to be, and our schedules were coordinated. Thank you, Ms. Urban, who spent quite a bit of time one morning hunting us down to make sure we got to the General Assembly in one piece. I also want to let high school parents know, in case you've missed it, because I did, that touch base for next Monday has been canceled. The high schools are asking you to coordinate with the teachers if you have any updates for your students. I know that can be a tremendous effort because it's 7 different teachers who may or may not be able to respond right away because of, as noted on the websites, it's due to loss of instructional time, so they're going to be very busy. But please, if you need to meet with your student's teacher, please make sure you make arrangements to do so, because touch base will be canceled. And to all those students, you'll be in class that day. So, sorry, I'm a high school senior parent. It just brings me joy to say these things. And I also want to congratulate Ms. Jessie and Delta Sigma Theta sorority, as well as the school system, for another successful MLK oratorical competition. It was very well attended, and the students did a great job. Shout out to our student from Freedom High School who participated. And that's it. Thank you.
It's going to go Diane Ralston.
Thank you. Not much today, but I wanted to thank Mrs. Cromiller at Dale City Elementary School and her math students. It was really amazing this morning to see these kids. And they were 4th graders. And they reminded me, now that I'm looking out here at Mr. Jessie, they were as good as you. And they had all the equipment that they needed. They had their computers, and they had things to be able to determine the space between, say, Earth and all the rest of the planets. They just didn't have a car, so they do the best they can. Thank you very much. That's it.
Mr. Trenum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It took too long last time, so we'll be quick. I just want to say thank you for the Pennington mock General Assembly for the resolution. It's wonderful. We have a certificate here from VSBA, but this is way better. Thank you so much. That's it.
Ms. Satterwhite.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to congratulate again Mr. Hamish Brewer and our Principal of the Year and our Teacher of the Year, Professor Gail Drake. I'm very excited for them, two amazing professionals, and all of our nominees who are absolutely outstanding professionals. Look forward to celebrating all of them soon. And along with Ms. Jessie, Ms. Williams, as you heard, we attended the legislative conference with Virginia School Board Association, and we're able to lobby for our legislative priorities in Richmond, and also for money to help pay for the superintendent's budget that was just presented tonight. And we worked very hard, and appreciate the legislators who took the time to meet with us. It was a very chaotic time. Usually we meet with them a week earlier. Because of the snow, our conference was delayed, and so it was very hard to catch them as they were very, very busy in session. But I appreciate them taking the time, and also appreciate the efforts of Jim Council, our lobbyist, who works very hard for us in Richmond, also lobbying for our legislative efforts. And so recently we had the Haymaker STEAM Expo at Battlefield High School. It is a huge community event involving schools from all over Prince William County, and it is STEAM. We had the arts and STEM, and it was just a fabulous event. Even students from TJ and I believe another Fairfax County school were there too, so they are supporting our activities. And I want to thank all of the students who helped plan the event and execute it. I want to thank all of the community feeder schools who participated, all of the student-led science activities that happened. It was a phenomenal event, and I believe this was well, I won't say what year because I can't remember, but it's a fabulous event. So look for that next January. I was able to attend the senior student athlete college commitment ceremony at Battlefield High School this week. Congratulations to our students who are going to be going on to perform both all Division I, Division II, Division III schools. Very proud of all of our student athletes. It was exciting to be there with their families and celebrate with them. And stay tuned, there'll be an announcement from our Safe Schools Advisory Council before too long. We have an event coming up for parents that will be, Ms. Hart, correct me, is it March or April when we have the event? March 26th, so stay tuned, we'll have announcements coming out for that later on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Wilk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. The last couple weeks have been crazy with all the snow days Dr. Waltz has called so graciously for our students. It's amazing. His Twitter following is astounding. Flu hit my family pretty hard, so this is the least amount of events I've been to in the last couple weeks. But I want to recognize a couple events. I did go to Ashland Military Family Night last week. I have the honor of sitting on their Purple Star Committee as a parent there and a board member. And congratulations to Ashland for getting their appeal and being recognized as a Purple Star school. I did go to a couple weeks ago, Friday night bingo at Covington Harper. I've never realized how intense bingo nights are at the elementary schools. My goodness. Oh man, when I was reading the numbers and it was crazy. Title I SOL nights with a presentation from Kirk Martin about calmness. Great presentation at Swans Creek Elementary that I attended as well. Do want to recognize Henderson Elementary. Dr. Waltz already did, but for being recognized as a Programs at Work Award by the VA Math Science Coalition. Shout out also recognizing upcoming, my wife is doing High School Musical next weekend at Forest Park High School and the drama program there. So it's crazy that High School Musical is already over 10 years old. Time flies. So anyways, go out there and I'll be at that at least one of those nights, of course. Thank you. Have a good night.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. I probably will take a couple more minutes extra than I normally do because of the budget tonight, but I want to thank Superintendent Dr. Waltz for the hard work, him and his staff, John Wallingford, the entire, all superintendents, associate superintendents, for the work you guys put into this budget. This is an incredible budget. I'm excited to start work on this. I will tell you that as I look at this, the superintendent heard what the community needs, what our teachers, what our principals, what our staff needs, what the school board members have talked about this year, last year. All of this is wrapped into this budget, and I truly appreciate the hard work that you guys have done to put this together. Just to highlight, and I want to reiterate, this is an important evening. It's an important night. This is one of the best budgets this school will deliver, the school system, in the last 10 years. We're talking about salaries for teachers, first time for a step and a COLA in over 10 years. We're talking about student success and special education, career technical education and pre-K programs. We're talking about safety and security with mental health and our increasing counselors. We're talking about space and class size reduction and a commitment to doing that more and more. I think it's very important for the public to make their voices heard on supporting the issues that they have already talked about over the years on these matters, and I think it's critical. I think, as someone mentioned in the citizens' comment time, what can they do to help? You can go to the Board of County Supervisors and tell them that the school system is doing a fantastic job at trying to do what we can with the budget we have. But we are 8,000 less per pupil than Arlington. We are 2,600 or so less than Loudoun, and we are 3,000 plus less than Fairfax County. If we had the money that Fairfax County had per pupil, we'd be $360 million more, which is 25% of our budget more on spending, and we'd be able to sort of deliver all those wish list kinds of things we really have. But I can't thank you guys enough for working this hard on this. I'm excited to start the work on this budget season. I think we're going to have a lot of success. Moving on, I want to thank Miss Jessie. The Martin Luther King Oratorical Competition was a fantastic event. My children had tried to participate. They never qualified. They always lost in their own school because it was fairly competitive. And I saw the reason why. These students came, they participated, they delivered exceptional speeches on important topics of the day. They were diverse and I think embraced the spirit of Martin Luther King. So I truly enjoyed that evening, that afternoon. Thank you to Dale City Civic Association. We have wonderful civic associations in our county. We have amazing groups of people doing great work. The Dale City Civic Association takes time every year to recognize our great teachers at the elementary and the middle and the high school level. It was incredible to see all the great teachers who were there and who were honored that evening. They also recognized some of our incredibly successful students. One student who was a senior at Freedom High School, Noor Ikra, who received a full ride scholarship at Harvard. She received one of their awards as Student Activist of the Year. And I want to thank Ernestine Jenkins and John Jenkins for the support of that event and for the commitment that that group does continually for our community. I mean, it really was an amazing night, and I'm humbled by the fact that they honored our teachers the way they did and our students. So thank you to the Dale City Civic Association. I talk about football. I was, fired up about Freedom doing so well, getting to the state finals, but I also talk about student success. Science fair season has started, folks. There are science fair posters in your schools if you want to go take a look around. Many of the students participate. Not everyone does, but just like in sports, there are great projects out there, a lot of great work put on by our great students who are really learning how to embrace the scientific method, talk about what they're studying, promote what they're studying, and presenting that to a group of people. And I hope you would support it. On our website, you'll see the dates for the science fair that we host here, the regional one, and you can come and see it during the public viewing session. So I would ask you to support that program, just like you support your sports programs and all of those. Student success, I do want to brag. I have to tell you that, I come here and sometimes you hear about other counties and what they do, but I can't tell you of all the great and amazing, positively PWCS things we have. I had a student last year, he was a senior that graduated one of our high schools. He graduated near the top of his class. He went to Colgan High School, and his name is Joshua Ralston, and I asked the family if I could use his name. He received admission to all 3 service academies, which is extremely rare: Naval Academy, West Point, and the Air Force Academy. He went to the Naval Academy. That's where he chose. He was nominated as a presidential nomination and as a nominee of Senator Warner's, and he was an outstanding student here. I tell you this story because I want to tell you about the quality of our students. He finished his first semester. When they come back from vacation, they're told their class rank, and and they receive merit awards. He is #1 in the United States Naval Academy's freshman class out of 1,200 students. That is a Prince William County student. I am exceptionally proud of him, of our students, and the kind of work they do when they leave here. My goal as chair is to try to access those kinds of opportunities for more of our kids at whatever their dreams are. And that's what I do here daily and what I try to do. And so as you watch our meetings and try to understand what we try to do here, I can reassure you that the board members here feel the same way. So I want you all to have a great night. Thank you so much. The meeting is adjourned.